Chapter 875. Grandmaster Wanderer, don't sweep around with your spiritual consciousness. Otherwise, no one can save you. The rogue cultivator standing next to Ning Cheng, waiting for Ning Cheng to craft artifacts, saw Ning Cheng's gaze fall on the man wearing the crown and quickly whispered to him. Although Ning Cheng didn't talk much, his artifacts were of high quality and cheap, which made him very popular among rogue cultivators. Most of the cultivators who came to Ning Cheng to craft artifacts referred to him as Grandmaster Wanderer. Ning Cheng looked at the rogue cultivator blankly and asked, "Is that person famous?" The rogue cultivator lowered his voice and said, "That's the Grand Essence's premier sect, Barbarian Dragon Clan's Dragon Emperor Man Huishan. He's a Tao Essence powerhouse. Don't you think he's famous?" Ning Cheng suddenly spoke up, "No wonder everyone bowed to him when I saw him. It turns out to be the Barbarian Dragon Clan's Dragon Emperor." The rogue cultivator nodded, "Of course. It's strange that the Dragon Emperor would come to the Grand Essence Ruins public square. For this selection, the other sects would at most send some elders. The top 10 sects wouldn't even come here." "What's the selection?" Ning Cheng quickly asked. "He stayed here to craft artifacts, not only to familiarize himself with artifact crafting methods, but also to wait for Yan Ji. As for other things, he rarely inquired about them to prevent others from discovering anything unusual. Therefore, he had never heard of the selection mentioned by this rogue cultivator." The rogue cultivator smiled and said, "You know that the Grand Essence Great Meet is about to start, right?" "I know about it," Ning Cheng replied. He didn't know when the Grand Essence Great Meet would start, but he knew about it. The rogue cultivator pointed to the low-rank spirit artifact in Ning Cheng's hand and said, "I prepared this low-rank spirit artifact for the Grand Essence Great Meet. Can anyone participate in the Grand Essence Great Meet?" Ning Cheng asked in confusion. The rogue cultivator shook his head and said, "Of course not. Only some sects are eligible to participate in the Grand Essence Great Meet. The Grand Essence Great Meet has rich rewards, so how can rogue cultivators have a share? However, before each Grand Essence Great Meet, some sects would come to the Grand Essence Ruins public square to recruit some powerful rogue cultivators to make up for the lack of sect disciples. Originally, some powerful sects wouldn't bother doing this. But these sects were afraid that some of the powerful sects would come to the Grand Essence Ruins public square to recruit rogue cultivators. Over time, this became a rule. During the period before the Grand Essence Ruins Great Meet, all the sects came together to recruit rogue cultivators to fill the slots for the Great Meet. In the next few days, the major sects will start recruiting disciples. Did you see the many temporary buildings on the edge of the Grand Essence Ruins public square? Because of this rogue cultivator's reminder, Ning Cheng saw some temporary buildings built using artifacts at the edge of the Grand Essence Ruins public square. Some of the buildings even had the signboards of the sections. Clearly, this rogue cultivator was telling the truth. These sects were indeed here to recruit disciples. Ning Cheng asked in confusion, "I heard that the reward for the Grand Essence Great Meet is the extraterritorial Spirit Spring. If so many rogue cultivators were to participate, wouldn't that reduce the chances of the true sect disciples?" The rogue cultivator on hearing Ning Cheng's words showed a smile. "You think too much. The extraterritorial Spirit Spring is a reward for the top 10 of the Grand Essence Great Meet. It has nothing to do with recruiting rogue cultivators. Because every time before the Grand Essence Great Meet, there would be a Grand Essence Mystic Realm to snatch. The major sects recruit rogue cultivators to join them in snatching things from the Mystic Realms. Only the top 100 cultivators who obtain divine grasses and other treasures in the Mystic Realms have a chance to participate in the Grand Essence Great Meet. Therefore, the real Grand Essence Great Meet is a competition between the top 100 cultivators in the Grand Essence Mystic Realm. It has nothing to do with others. I want to be selected by the other sects because I want to get some treasures in the Mystic Realm. If I can get a Tao fruit as a reward, it would be worth it." Ning Cheng understood that it was to recruit cannon fodder. He didn't need to ask to understand that snatching things in the Mystic Realm was much more dangerous than snatching things in the Grand Essence Ruins. Since the Grand Essence Mystic Realm chose to open before the Grand Essence Great Meet, it meant that there must be a lot of good things inside. How could the competition inside not be fierce? Excuse me, which sects came here to recruit disciples this time? What do you mean by the top 10 sects? Ning Qing knew that his question sounded a bit stupid, so he lowered his voice. Sure enough, when the rogue cultivator heard Ning Cheng's question, his eyes flashed with astonishment. But he quickly returned to normal and explained in detail, the top 10 sects are the 3 saints, 3 spirits, and 4 deep seas. They refer to River Luo Sacred Sect, 7-Star Sacred Shrine, and 9 Revolving Sacred Dao Pond, Flaming Feather Spirit Mountain, Profound Moon Spirit Gate, and Desolate Spirit Palace, Grand Essence Seas Barbarian Dragon Clan, Silver Dragon Clan, Sunken Fish Palace, and Mysterious Fairy Ancient Clan. I heard that Mysterious Fairy Ancient Clan hasn't appeared in the world for a long time. They don't even participate in the Grand Essence Great Meet. As for the rest of the smaller sects, there are too many of them. I can't explain them all. You can come and see for yourself when the time comes. Ning Qing handed the low-rank spirit artifact in his hand to the rogue cultivator. Your weapon is finished. Since I heard you say so much today, I'm going to try my luck. I'll take half of your points. The rogue cultivator felt overjoyed when he heard that Ning Qing only wanted half of his points. He quickly took out his white card and transferred the points to Ning Qing. After thanking him repeatedly, he left. After the rogue cultivator left, Ning Qing also put away his artifact crafting stall. Even after waiting for half a year, Yan Ji still hadn't appeared. Although he could continue to wait, he didn't have that much time. After half a year, his artifact crafting level had soared. Moreover, he had also collected a lot of high-quality artifact crafting materials. Therefore, he decided to refine a few high-rank spirit artifacts for himself first. As for the Grand Essence Mystic Realm, Ning Qing decided to enter it. If he could reach the top 100 in the Grand Essence Mystic Realm, he might be able to represent one of the sects to participate in the Grand Essence Great Meet. That way, he might even be able to enter the extraterritorial spirit spring for cultivation. 2 days later, when Ning Qing came out of the rest stop, the Grand Essence Ruins public square had long since been occupied by sects of various sizes. Unlike what that rogue cultivator said before, Ning Qing not only saw a bunch of small sects on the Grand Essence Ruins public square, but he also saw 9 of the top 10 sections. Apart from the Mysterious Fairy Ancient Clan, almost all of the top 10 sects had arrived. Countless rogue cultivators had gathered in the public square. For them, this was an opportunity. Once selected to participate in the Grand Essence Mystic Realm, they might have a chance to advance to the Dao Sculpting Realm. The Grand Essence Mystic Realm might be dangerous, but if one wanted to stand at a higher place, where wouldn't it be dangerous? Ning Qing walked around half a circle and saw a weapon in front of each sect that tested one's spiritual consciousness and celestial essence. In this kind of selection, cultivators didn't care about the qualifications of their spiritual roots. Instead, they only looked at the density of celestial essence and the penetration of one's spiritual consciousness. Everyone understood what was going on. This kind of selection wasn't meant to train you as a sect's disciple, but rather to take advantage of each other. After participating in the Grand Essence Mystic Realm, each person would get their own benefits. After that, everyone would go their separate ways. Ning Qing stopped at the 7-Star Sacred Shrine station and saw an acquaintance, Yan Xishuang. He had saved Yan Xishuang and then teamed up with Yan Xishuang to obtain a drop of 3,000 weak water and a fragment of the Good Fortune Azure Lotus. As a result, the drop of 3,000 weak water went to him, while the Azure Lotus fragment went to Yan Xishuang. Ning Qing still had a good impression of this woman. This woman paid attention to equal exchange. She didn't take advantage of others, nor was she the rude kind. Ning Qing only knew about Nirvana's heart because of Yan Xishuang. Speaking of which, Yan Xishuang was the first to discover Nirvana's heart. However, she encountered a problem while collecting the Nirvana Bluestone and almost died. Seeing Yan Xishuang standing at the 7-Star Sacred Shrine station, Ning Qing realized that this woman was also from one of the 3 sacred sections. In Yongxian, who came with Shan Yaozhen before, was also from the 7-star sacred shrine. However, Ying Yongxian didn't come today. Yan Xishuang's aura had also become much purer. Not only did it become much purer, but it also doubled in strength compared to before. Ning Qing knew that this was the effect of the azure lotus fragment. When he first met Yan Xishuang, although she was at the full circle of the eternal realm, she wasn't any stronger than him. But now, Yan Xishuang had definitely surpassed the full circle of the eternal realm. According to Ning Chang's speculations, Yan Xishuang definitely hadn't reached the Dao sculpting realm yet. With Yan Xishuang's cultivation, there was only one reason why she hadn't reached the Dao sculpting realm yet. That is, she wanted to enter the extraterritorial spirit spring to transform her spirit essence. At this moment, Yan Xishuang's aura was clean and pure. If she could transform her spirit essence in the extraterritorial spirit spring, her future would truly be bright. Others might not know what was going on, but Ning Qing knew it. He had the mysterious yellow bead, so he naturally understood that only a good fortune treasure could cause such a big change in Yan Xishuang. Yan Xishuang sat on the side with a calm expression. Her unparalleled beauty attracted many people to come to the 7-star sacred shrine to take the test. In terms of appearance, Yan Xishuang was more beautiful than Kong Ning and Shan Yaozhen. What Ning Qing appreciated more was her attitude towards things. She remained calm and rational. Since he had to join a sect, Ning Qing decided to join the 7-star sacred shrine. The 7-star sacred shrine was one of the top 10 sections. Even if he did something in the mystic realm, it wouldn't affect the sect. This was one of the reasons. Secondly, the big sects would have more slots to enter the mystic realm. Most importantly, Ning Qing knew Yan Xishuang. Senior apprentice sister, I want to participate in the 7-star sacred shrine's disciple selection. Ning Qing walked up to Yan Xishuang and spoke with cupped fists. Yan Xishuang apparently didn't recognize Ning Qing. She nodded and pointed to a testing artifact next to her. Then, she spoke with a gentle tone, stimulate all your celestial essence and spiritual consciousness and try it on this testing artifact. Okay. Ning Qing walked up to the testing artifact and started to gather his strength. It was impossible to stimulate all his celestial essence and spiritual consciousness. The celestial essence scale and spiritual consciousness scale on this testing artifact were both 10. Ning Qing had seen other cultivators take the test before. Generally, cultivators would have a celestial essence scale of 1 to 5. Only a few could reach 6, and only 1 or 2 could exceed 7. As for spiritual consciousness, it was generally slightly lower than the celestial essence scale. Ning Qing decided to use 40% of his strength. This level should be enough to guarantee him entry to the 7-star sacred shrine. Chapter 876. Ning Qing punched out, causing the surrounding space to erupt with slight explosions. Boom! His fist blasted on the testing magic treasure. The testing magic treasure shone brightly, and the 2 markings on the crystal rapidly rose. The celestial essence scale rose past 6 in just a short time, and only stopped when it approached the 7 mark. Even the spiritual consciousness scale climbed to the 6 mark. A burst of exclamations erupted from the surroundings. Although Ning Chang's celestial essence punch did not exceed 7, it was infinitely close to it. More importantly, Ning Chang's spiritual consciousness had already exceeded 6 scales. With such strength, he would have no problem entering the 7-star sacred shrine. Some cultivators who knew Ning Qing came forward to congratulate him. Previously, they had only come to Ning City to craft artifacts, but they did not expect the strength of this artifact crafting master to be so formidable. Yan Xishuang looked at Ning Qing in surprise. Ning Qing didn't seem to have a high cultivation, yet he could erupt with such a powerful force. Using this kind of magic treasure to test a cultivator's cultivation was naturally not very accurate. However, there was one thing. Once the scale of this magic treasure exceeded 5, it would be very difficult to increase it. Since Ning Qing could punch out a celestial essence with a power scale of almost 7, it meant that there was no problem with his strength. She quickly nodded to Ning Qing, "What is your name?" You've passed the test. After the disciple recruitment ends, come back with us to the 7-star sacred shrine. Thank you, senior sister. My name is Nian Qiong and I'm a wandering craftsman. Ning Qing quickly cupped his fists and thanked them before standing behind the 7-star sacred shrine with the other two. Ning Qing considered that the Dragon Emperor of Barbarian Dragon Clan was looking for him, so he simply removed the word Cheng from his name. Junior sister Xishuang, long time no see. A deep man's voice sounded, and a purple-faced man with a big smile appeared in front of Yan Xishuang. Ning Qing felt a powerful water qi fluctuation coming from this man. He had also felt this kind of water qi fluctuation from Manjuran. Unlike Manjuran, this person had a purple face and no ripples on his face. Yan Xishuang calmly replied with a polite greeting, "It turns out to be the second prince. Looks like the Barbarian Dragon Clan attaches great importance to this disciple selection." Hearing about the second prince and the Barbarian Dragon Clan, Ning Qing completely understood. This person was Manjuran's second brother and also the son of Dragon Emperor Man Huishan. Ning Qing had heard from the silver-haired woman that Man Huishan had more than 100 sons. From the looks of it, it was true. The purple-faced man, on hearing Yan Xishuang's reply, showed a soft expression. "Yes, I knew that junior apprentice sister Xishuang might come here, so I took the initiative to apply." Ning Qing looked at the purple-faced man and understood that this fellow wanted to pursue Yan Xishuang. If Yan Xishuang agreed to it, then it would truly be a case of flowers and cow dung. Yan Xishuang spoke up in a flat tone, "Second prince, if there's nothing else, please let me through. I still have someone to test." I'm fine. The purple-faced man quickly stepped aside. He hesitated for a moment before saying, "I wonder if junior apprentice sister Xishuang has the time to go to a rest stop with me for a cup of spiritual tea." "I'm sorry, but I don't have time." Yan Xishuang didn't even bother to look for an answer. "Second brother, we're all very busy, but you're very free, hee." A slightly sarcastic voice sounded. Ning Qing retracted his spiritual consciousness and gaze. He was too familiar with this person. It was 9th Prince Manjuran, whom he had killed once and whose corporeal body Pan Qian had smashed apart. The purple-faced man smiled at Yan Xishuang, but he wasn't as polite to this 9th prince. He gave a cold snort. "9th brother, you have the nerve to say that. If not for you being so useless, would my royal father have come to this broken place?" The purple-faced man stopped himself in time. It's just that Manjuran ridiculed him in front of his sweetheart, which made him feel uncomfortable. Manjuran was just about to speak again when he suddenly saw Ning Qing behind Yan Xishuang. His gaze immediately fell on Ning Qing, and after carefully looking at Ning Qing for a while, he frowned and asked, "What's your name?" Yan Xishuang's tone turned cold. "This is my 7-star sacred shrine's newly recruited disciple, Nian Qiong. If the two princes have nothing else to say, please don't interfere with my sex recruitment." The Barbarian Dragon Clan indeed had a Tao Perfection powerhouse, but the 7-star sacred shrine didn't fear it. Although the 7-star sacred shrine didn't have any Tao Perfection powerhouses, it had 2 Tao Fusion powerhouses. Moreover, apart from Mansuatian, the Barbarian Dragon Clan didn't have any other powerhouses. Even Dragon Emperor Man Huishan was only at the full circle Tao Essence realm. One could say that without Mansuatian, the Barbarian Dragon Clan wouldn't have qualified to enter the top 10 sects, let alone become the leader of the 4 Seas sections. When the purple-faced second prince heard Yan Xishuang's words, he quickly pulled Manjuran away. "9th brother, don't stay here. Come with me." This time, Manjuran didn't speak any nonsense and silently followed the second prince. He still couldn't help but think about Ning Qing. He had never seen this person before. So why did he feel an uncontrollable killing intent in his heart when he saw this Nian Qiong? The instincts of the Grand Essence Sea's Barbarian Dragon Clan were extremely powerful. Even if Ning Qing changed his appearance and converged his aura, he still couldn't completely hide himself from Manjuran's instinctive killing intent. Manjuran suddenly stopped. Who was the person he wanted to kill the most? It was the cultivator named Ning Qing. At this moment, he felt 90% sure that Nian Qiong was Ning Cheng. After guessing that Nian Qiong was Ning Cheng, Manjuran's first thought was to tell this news to his father, Man Huishan. But as soon as this idea popped up, he quickly extinguished it. If he told this news to his father, this Ning Cheng would definitely die. At the same time, he would also be able to avenge his father's death. However, the 5-colored star splitter arrow wouldn't fall into his hands. His father didn't come to the Grand Essence ruins to avenge him, but for the 5-colored star splitter arrow. Manjuran understood this point better than anyone else. If he couldn't get the 5-colored star splitter arrow, then forget it. But now that he had a chance, he couldn't let it go. He wanted this arrow no matter what. Ning Cheng joined the 7-star sacred shrine because he wanted to go to the Grand Essence mystic realm. At that time, as long as he found a few people to secretly kill Ning Cheng in the Grand Essence mystic realm, who would know that he snatched the 5-colored star splitter arrow? Ning Cheng's 5-colored star splitter arrow was indeed powerful, but no matter how powerful it was, he could only shoot it once. As long as he grasped this point, he wouldn't have to worry about killing Ning Cheng. The more Manjuran thought about this plan, the more feasible it seemed. From Manjuran's gaze and expression before he left, Ning Cheng realized that Manjuran might have recognized him. At this moment, Ning Cheng couldn't wait to leave immediately. But when he saw Manjuran not making any moves, not even his spiritual consciousness falling on him, Ning Cheng started to doubt it again. But this doubt didn't last long. Ning Cheng believed that Manjuran had recognized him, and there was no need for luck at all. The reason why Manjuran didn't make any moves wasn't because he didn't recognize him, but because he didn't want to tell his father about him. The only possibility was that Manjuran wanted to take everything from him. Manjuran had gone to the mysterious Yellow Starland alone to do those things. This person had great ambitions. But after knowing that Manjuran wanted to take the 5-colored star splitter arrow for himself, Ning Cheng wasn't in a hurry. If he didn't know that Manjuran recognized him, he might have suffered a huge loss. Now that Manjuran recognized him, he didn't believe that he couldn't kill this fellow. 3 days passed, and no one came looking for him. Ning Cheng realized that his guess was right. Manjuran really wanted to take everything from him. 3 days later, the major sects on the Grand Essence Ruins public square finally finished recruiting rogue cultivators. The 7-star sacred shrine had recruited a total of 20 people, and Ning Cheng was just one of them. Among the 20 people, Ning Cheng's strength only ranked in the middle, which wasn't too outstanding. The 7-star sacred shrine only had one elder leading the team. Ning Cheng couldn't see through this elder's strength, but he was sure that this elder wasn't as strong as Barbarian Dragon Clan's patriarch, Man Huishan. As for Yan Xishuang, she most likely came to help. The Grand Essence ruins might be far from the entrance to the Grand Essence domain, but no matter how far it was, it wouldn't take long to teleport there. This was Ning Cheng's first time entering the Grand Essence domain. But after entering the Grand Essence domain, he understood why the sects of the Grand Essence realm gathered here. The spirit chi in the Grand Essence domain was more than a dozen times stronger than the outside world. Moreover, this was just an ordinary place. Some sects would choose places with denser spirit chi. Comparing this place to the Grand Essence ruins and Boundary Essence Spirit Sea City made Ning Cheng understand the truth that the strong grew stronger. Half a day later, Ning Cheng and the others arrived at the entrance of the 7-star sacred shrine. The 7-star sacred shrine had a majestic atmosphere, and the spirit chi here was several times denser than the outside world. Standing here, Ning Cheng even had an illusion that the laws within the 7-star sacred shrine space were more stable than in other places. If the 7-star sacred shrine was like this, then it must be the same for other sacred or spirit gates. After entering the sect, Ning Cheng and the others were each assigned a room and a jade card. After that, no one came to ask about it. Returning to the room assigned to him, Ning Cheng used his spiritual consciousness to sweep the jade card, and immediately caught some of the information inside it. The Grand Essence Mystic Realm would open in 5 months. During these 5 months, they could move around in the outer sect of the 7-star sacred shrine. They could also go out, but they had to come back before the Grand Essence Mystic Realm opened. There was one more thing that they had to abide by. That is, they weren't allowed to enter the inner sect. Otherwise, they would die without mercy. Ning Qing put away the jade card and shook his head. The 7-star sacred shrine didn't even treat them as an outer sect. At best, it treated them as a batch of cannon fodder. As cannon fodder, one must have the consciousness of being cannon fodder and not run around. Even without this jade card's warning, Ning Qing didn't plan to go out. He planned to refine a fake 5-colored star splitter arrow in the next few months. Manjurin couldn't possibly not know how powerful his 5-colored star splitter arrow was. On the premise that he knew how powerful his 5-colored star splitter arrow was, Manjurin still dared to keep it for himself. It meant that he had confidence in himself. In any case, he had to take some precautions. Ning Qing was just about to activate the restrictions around his room when someone appeared outside his room. Chapter 877. Brother Nian, sorry to disturb you. This person did not wait for Ning Qing to speak and first greeted Ning Qing with cupped fists. Ning Qing chuckled, so it turns out to be Brother Xiong. Brother Xiong, please come in. Ning Qing knew this person. He was a rogue cultivator selected by the 7-star sacred shrine along with him. His name was Xiong Song. His cultivation was higher than him, late-stage eternal realm. The strength displayed by this fellow was almost the same as him, with his celestial essence close to 7, while his spiritual consciousness had broken through to 6. Xiong Sang's appearance was similar to his name. He was burly and had a big face. His whole body was almost square. After Xiong Sang came in and sat down, Ning Qing casually activated the restriction, and spoke with a smile, since Brother Xiong came looking for me, then there must be something. Brother Nian, have you ever thought about staying in the 7-star sacred shrine and then entering the inner sect? Xiong Sang asked directly when he heard Ning Cheng's question. Enter the 7-star sacred shrine's inner sect? Ning Cheng asked in doubt. He knew that the 7-star sacred shrine wanted to use them as cannon fodder, so how could they let them enter the inner sect? Xiong Sang spoke up in a low tone, Brother Nian, you're also a rogue cultivator. You should know how difficult it is for a rogue cultivator to achieve Dao sculpting. Even if we obtain the Dao fruit, I'm afraid that our chances of reaching Dao sculpting would not be high. There was no Dao arena to listen to the Dao, no divine powers pavilion, and no cultivation technique hall. What we can do is to fumble around on our own, lacking a guiding direction. If we rogue cultivators want to go further, we can only join a sect. Ning Qing remained silent. He wouldn't join the 7-star sacred shrine, and he also didn't agree with Xiong Sang's words. When one's cultivation was low, a guide was indeed very important. However, once one reached the eternal realm, they would have to rely on their own comprehension of all things and their understanding of the laws of heaven and earth. Even if they had a powerful master to guide them, it would still be of limited use. However, Ning Cheng was somewhat interested in the Dao sanctum that Xiong Sang spoke about. The dojo was a place where some powerful Dao confirming cultivators would discuss the Dao. If one could go and listen, it would be beneficial to one's understanding of the Dao. Every sect had its own Dao rite, and the most famous one in the Grand Essence realm was the Grand Essence Dao rite. It was just that it was very difficult for itinerant cultivators to enter and listen to Dao in these places. Xiong Sang, on seeing Ning Cheng's silence, thought that Ning Cheng agreed with his words. Therefore, he continued, the 7-star sacred shrine has 2 Dao fusion powerhouses, and the Spirit Technique Pavilion has countless powerful spirit techniques. Then how can Brother Xiong join the 7-star sacred shrine? Ning Cheng asked. Xiong Sang nodded, that's exactly what I wanted to talk to Brother Nian about. Brother Nian should know that entering the Grand Essence Mystic Realm this time has a high chance of falling. However, it also has a high chance of us reaching the sky in a single bound. If we can collect enough divine grasses in the mystic realm and rank in the top 10, we would have a chance to represent the 7-star sacred shrine in the Grand Essence Great Meet. Wait. Ning Cheng interrupted Xiong Tsang's words. Brother Xiong, you said that only the top 10 in the Grand Essence Mystic Realm have the opportunity to represent the 7-star sacred shrine in the Grand Essence Great Meet? How come I heard that the Grand Essence Great Meet is only for the top 100? Hearing Ning Cheng's words, Xiong Tsang laughed. Brother Nian, you're too naive. Taking the top 100 to participate in the Grand Essence Great Meet is not bad. But only the top 10 in the Grand Essence Mystic Realm have the opportunity to participate. The remaining 90 people are allocated by the major sections. Brother Nian, don't tell me you don't even know about this. The Grand Essence Mystic Realm opens mainly for these sects to plunder divine grasses and some top-grade heavenly treasures. To put it bluntly, we hold our heads in our hands and serve these major sections. Speaking of this, Xiong Tsang showed a self-deprecating smile. It's equivalent to us rogue cultivators desperately competing for divine grasses in the mystic realm for the major sections. While those major sects watch us fight to the death while waiting for us to hand over the divine grasses we risked our lives to obtain to them. Ning Cheng's heart sank, and his expression turned a little ugly. He entered the mystic realm to search for divine grasses because he needed a lot of them. But more importantly, he wanted to participate in the Grand Essence Great Meet. Although many cultivators entered the mystic realm, Ning Cheng still felt confident about entering the top 100. But he didn't feel confident about entering the top 10. From the looks of it, that rogue cultivator also didn't know much about it. Searching for natural treasures didn't depend on one's strength. It also depended on one's luck. Xiong Tsang didn't know about Ning Cheng's thoughts and continued, we can join forces. As long as we can reach the top 10, we can get 2 spots to participate in the Grand Essence Great Meet. At that time, we can offer our spots to the sects and join them. Ning Cheng calmed down and asked, Brother Xiong, how many cultivators enter the mystic realm to search for natural treasures? I believe Brother Xiong already knows about it. But why can Brother Xiong help us enter the top 10? Xiong Tsang showed a smile. If Brother Nian is willing to join forces with me, I will naturally tell you my method. Ning Cheng suddenly showed a smile. Brother Xiong, please. I like to be alone. I just want to go in and find a Dao fruit. I don't have much hope of joining a sacred shrine. When Ning Cheng heard Xiong Tsang's words, he immediately understood what Xiong Tsang meant. Xiong Tsang most likely had a set of sneak attacks. He most likely wanted to kill other cultivators in the mystic realm and snatch their divine grasses to reach the top 10. This kind of robbery went against Ning Cheng's conscience. Therefore, he naturally wouldn't join forces with Xiong Tsang. Hearing Ning Cheng's words, Xiong Tsang's eyes flashed with disappointment. A moment later, he stood up and cupped his fists towards Ning Cheng. In that case, I'll take my leave. Ning Cheng waited for Xiong Tsang to leave before activating the restrictions around the room again. Xiong Tsang's proposal reminded him that since Xiong Tsang could think of robbing others to obtain divine grasses, there must be others who could think of robbing others to obtain divine grasses. From the looks of it, he not only had to guard against Manjuran but also against these rogue cultivators. In the next few months, Ning Cheng didn't go anywhere. In addition to crafting a few spirit artifacts for himself, he also crafted a 5-colored star splitter arrow. The power of this arrow couldn't compare to the real 5-colored star splitter arrow. Ning Cheng wanted to make this arrow look similar to the 5-colored star splitter arrow. One could say that this arrow couldn't even compare to an ordinary middle-rank spirit artifact bow. Ning Cheng didn't craft this arrow for its power. Rather, he crafted it to deal with Manjuran. In addition, Ning Cheng also crafted a large number of trap and kill array discs. Ning Cheng's attainment in the Tao of arrays was much higher than his cultivation. If he didn't make use of it, it would be a waste of all the time he spent studying the Tao of arrays. Although the influence of array discs wasn't as strong as array formations, in a showdown between powerhouses, as long as one had a slight advantage, it could change the outcome of the battle. 5 months passed by quickly. On this day, when Ning Cheng finished crafting another trap and kill array, the Jade Card received a call to assemble. Ning Cheng put away his things and arrived at the public square. Xiong Tsang had already arrived. When Ning Qing saw him standing with another rogue cultivator, he understood that this fellow had found a companion. This time, the leader of the group changed to an old man with white hair and a beard. Ning Qing couldn't see the old man's cultivation, but he could feel that this old man was strong, most likely a second-step Dao confirming powerhouse. Ning Qing also noticed that in addition to the 20 rogue cultivators on the public square, there were also many disciples from the 7-star sacred shrine. Among these disciples, Ning Qing saw Yan Xishuang, but he still didn't see Ying Yongxian. A huge black airship landed in the middle of the public square, and the white-haired old man landed on the bow of the airship and said to the cultivators on the public square, "This time, our 7-star sacred shrine will have a total of 70 disciples enter the Grand Essence Mystic Realm." Originally, the disciples belonging to the 7-star sacred shrine can use the divine grasses and treasures found in the mystic realm to exchange for the sect's task points, spirit pills, or even spirit techniques. If you contribute a lot, you can even exchange for Dao pills and Dao fruits. As for the disciples who later join my 7-star sacred shrine, you can also exchange the divine grasses found in the mystic realm for spirit pills, spirit techniques, or cultivation methods. If you contribute a lot, you can also exchange for Dao fruits or Dao pills. If you rank in the top 10, you will have the opportunity to join the 7-star sacred shrine's inner sect. You can freely enter and exit the 7-star sacred shrine's Dao Rite, Spirit Technique Pavilion. No wonder they weren't afraid of cultivators hiding things. Even if a rogue cultivator collected a lot of divine grasses and hid them, what was the use? At most, they could exchange them for some merchant houses. Could a rogue cultivator ask someone who could refine spirit pills to help them refine pills? As for refining Dao pills, they couldn't even think about it. As for exchanging for Dao fruits, Ning Qing only needed to think about how Kong Ning used more than 400,000 points to exchange for a falling scar fruit to understand that Dao fruits weren't easy to obtain. Not every cultivator was like him, a Dao sculpting pill deity. Perhaps for these rogue cultivators, if they obtained a lot of divine grasses, they could hand them over to the sect and exchange them for cultivation resources that could be used directly. This was the best way. Of course, I have to remind the 20 disciples who later join my 7-star sacred shrine. After the ranking, you must hand over 1/5 of the divine grasses you obtain to the sect before you can exchange for anything else. If you obtain less than 100 divine grasses, you must hand over half of them to the sect. When Ning Qing heard this, he couldn't help but think that the 7-star sacred shrine's own disciples didn't have to hand over 1/5. As for the rogue cultivators who joined later, they had to hand over some divine grasses to enjoy the same treatment as the 7-star sacred shrine's disciples. Ning Qing didn't feel surprised. It would have been strange if the 7-star sacred shrine didn't do this. Since the 7-star sacred shrine provided the opportunity to enter the mystic realm, it naturally had to collect some taxes. If there's no problem, everyone, get on the airship and head to the Grand Essence Mystic Realm. After the white-haired old man finished speaking, the cultivators waiting on the public square immediately flew onto the airship. The rogue cultivators, in order to build a relationship with the 7-star sacred shrine's disciples, lowered their posture and asked some questions. Ning Qing didn't step forward and speak too much. Since a dragon emperor was staring at him, it was best not to talk nonsense. From the discussions of these cultivators, Ning Qing also learned that the white-haired old man leading the team this time was called Fan Mu, a Dao essence powerhouse at the second step of Dao confirming. A day later, the 7-star sacred shrine's airship stopped. From the deck, Ning Qing saw that the airship didn't stop in the starry sky but on a very empty wasteland. At this moment, many temporary caves and buildings had already been set up around the wasteland, most likely belonging to some of the sects that had arrived earlier. Chapter 878. After Ning Qing followed the cultivators from the 7-star sacred shrine off the airship, he saw some acquaintances. Barbarian Dragon Clan's 2nd Prince, 9th Prince, and even Shan Yaotsun were here. Since Kong Ning didn't come, she probably went into seclusion to prepare for her advancement. Although Manjurin's gaze didn't move towards Ning Qing still caught his vague spiritual consciousness. Senior Apprentice Sister Yen. Ning Qing suddenly walked up to Yan Xishuang and called out. Yan Xishuang's gaze fell on Ning Cheng, and she quickly remembered who Ning Cheng was. She gave a and asked, "Dao friend Nian Xiong, did you call me for something?" She had a very deep impression of Ning Cheng. Among the rogue cultivators recruited this time, Ning Cheng's cultivation was the lowest, but his strength was only at the middle level. Ning Cheng gave a salute and said, "Yes, because we are about to enter the Grand Essence Mystic Realm. Senior sister knows that my cultivation isn't high, so I'm a little worried." Yan Xishuang showed a slight smile. "The Grand Essence Mystic Realm is huge, so you don't have to worry about it. As long as I don't meet those ruthless people, I'll be fine as long as I'm careful." After hesitating for a while, she spoke up again. "This time, only Dao sculpting cultivators and below can enter the Grand Essence Mystic Realm. With your strength, you should be able to protect yourself. Don't offend the disciples of some big sects, especially the Grand Essence's 12 sacred children." Of course, not all of the Grand Essence's 12 sacred children will enter. It was Ning Cheng's first time hearing about the Grand Essence's 12 sacred children. He didn't even know what they were, nor did he intend to ask about them. Seeing that Yan Xishuang was about to leave after speaking, Ning Cheng quickly asked, "Senior apprentice Sister Yan, I saw that the barbarian dragon clan's 9th prince also seemed to want to enter the Grand Essence Mystic Realm. Did he also not reach the Dao sculpting realm?" Yan Xishuang replied with a calm voice, "Manjurin is a proud person. If he didn't go to the extraterritorial spirit spring to transform his spirit essence, how could he reach Dao sculpting? After you enter the Grand Essence Mystic Realm, just concentrate on searching for divine grasses. Once you encounter danger, don't let treasures blind your eyes. There are countless treasures in the Grand Essence Mystic Realm. If you can't find them in one place, you can find them in other places." After saying that, Yan Xishuang no longer paid any attention to Ning Cheng and turned to leave. Ning Cheng stood in silence. He had always guessed that most of the 9th prince was a Dao sculpting powerhouse. Even Hong Luan, whom he killed, was a Dao sculpting powerhouse. From the looks of it, neither the 9th prince nor Hong Luan had reached the Dao sculpting realm. It seemed that he had overestimated his own strength. Although his 5-colored star splitter arrow could kill the 9th prince, it might not necessarily kill a genuine Dao sculpting cultivator. As long as he couldn't kill a Dao sculpting cultivator, he could only wait for a Dao sculpting cultivator to kill him. After learning about the gap between him and Dao sculpting, Ning Cheng didn't continue to ask questions outside. Instead, he returned to the station and waited to enter the Grand Essence Mystic Realm with peace of mind. 3 days later, Ning Cheng finally understood why he had chosen this place. More than a dozen experts from various sects set up a huge teleportation array in the middle of the wilderness. Apparently, they wanted to use this method to enter the Grand Essence Mystic Realm. Although Ning Cheng's understanding of the Tao of array formations might not be as good as the powerhouses who set up the teleportation array, he could still see that the various components of this teleportation array looked ancient. Moreover, he couldn't see the refining method used to craft it. From this, Ning Cheng understood that this teleportation array had always existed. Most likely, the major sects of the Grand Essence domain wanted to jointly control the Grand Essence Mystic Realm. Therefore, they decided to dismantle the teleportation array leading to the Grand Essence Mystic Realm, allowing each sect to control some of the teleportation components. Once the Grand Essence Mystic Realm's opening time arrived, they would then assemble the teleportation array together. Ning Cheng stood in the crowd about to be teleported and counted the number of people entering the Grand Essence Mystic Realm. There were at least 10,000 people. A middle-aged female cultivator stood in front of the teleportation array and spoke with a crisp voice, "All disciples who are about to enter the Grand Essence Mystic Realm, please pay attention. Although the Grand Essence Mystic Realm only opens every 3,000 years, the area inside is vast. Even to this day, there are many places that no one has ever been to. This mystic realm will open for a year. After a year, everyone will still be teleported out of the mystic realm's teleportation array. Alright, everyone can now enter the teleportation array." Ning Cheng felt a little puzzled. Why didn't anyone say what would happen if they didn't come out of the mystic realm within a year? He whispered to a cultivator from the 7-star sacred shrine beside him, "This Tao friend, can I ask what happens if you don't come out within a year? What if you don't make it to the teleportation array within a year?" The cultivator from the 7-star sacred shrine glanced at Ning Cheng with disdain and gave a cold snort. He didn't even bother to answer. Apparently, he looked down on rogue cultivators like Ning Cheng, who entered the mystic realm with the help of a sacred gate. Ning Cheng didn't ask any more questions and decided to go in first. This teleportation array was too big, and each teleportation carried nearly 200 to 300 people. In just half an incense stick worth of time, it was the 7-star sacred shrine's turn. Ning Cheng and the other cultivators had just stood on the teleportation array when they felt a spiritual consciousness imprint fall on him. It was almost impossible for an eternal cultivator to leave a spiritual consciousness imprint on him without being discovered. But before Ning Cheng could find the person who left the spiritual consciousness imprint, the teleportation array activated. Feeling a wave of dizziness, Ning Cheng immediately understood that this teleportation array was an ultra-long-distance teleportation array. After a long time, Ning Cheng's feet touched the ground and he appeared in the middle of another huge teleportation array. Following the crowd out of the teleportation array, Ning Cheng found that he was still in the wilderness. However, the spirit chi here was far from comparable to the place he came from. The spirit chi here was not only pure but also rich. No wonder many precious divine grasses could grow here. After everyone was teleported over, they quickly dispersed. Most of them escaped alone, while a small number of cultivators formed teams. Ning Cheng found a direction and quickly left. After an incense stick worth of time, Ning Cheng stopped. He saw a piece of Zui Meng glass, which was a low-level divine grass. In the Grand Essence realm, divine grasses were divided into 3 levels: low-level, middle-level, and top-level. Low-level divine grasses were the most common, while top-level divine grasses were rare. Generally speaking, spirit pills refined from low-level and middle-level divine grasses would only have an effect on first-step Tao confirming cultivators. Only a few spirit pills refined from top-level divine grasses would have an effect on second-step Tao confirming holy emperors. The cultivation resources that second-step Tao confirming powerhouses truly pursued were Tao pills or Tao fruits. Moreover, because top-level divine grasses were hard to find, there weren't many Tao Essence Pill deities in the Grand Essence realm. As for Tao Essence Pill saints, they were even rarer. Although Zui Meng glass was a low-level divine grass, it had some use for Ning Cheng. Zui Meng glass could be used to refine accumulating dream pills, which had a great effect on comprehending spirit techniques, especially those with intent-level spirit techniques like None to Depend On or Sunset's Twilight. Ning Cheng was now a Tao sculpting pill deity. Therefore, even if he couldn't use it, he could refine accumulating dream pills for sale. After collecting all the Zui Meng glass, Ning Cheng ignored the spiritual consciousness imprint on his body and continued to explore deeper. An hour later, Ning Cheng stopped in a valley. He felt sure that Manjurin had asked someone to place the spiritual consciousness imprint on him. Moreover, Manjurin wouldn't have much patience for the 5-colored star splitter arrow. Ning Cheng wanted to concentrate on searching for divine grasses and wasn't in the mood to play hide-and-seek with Manjurin. This place was the place where Manjurin died. Ning Cheng had already witnessed Manjurin's power. Moreover, after Manjurin learned about his 5-colored star splitter arrow, he would definitely have a helper if he came looking for him again. With Manjurin's means, the most appropriate way was to find someone to let him shoot the 5-colored star splitter arrow first, and then deal with it himself. Because of this guess, Ning Cheng refined a fake 5-colored star splitter arrow. Ning Cheng then started to arrange array formations in the valley. He didn't arrange a killing array but an entrapment array. After arranging the entrapment array, Ning Cheng took out a jade strip and pretended to study a map. But he didn't study it for long when a flash of light landed in front of Ning Cheng. "You're Ning Cheng." A thin man with a short stature landed not far from Ning Cheng. He had a few sparse hairs on his head, which made him look a little funny. However, Ning Cheng didn't find this man funny at all. He could feel that this thin male cultivator was even stronger than Hong Luan, whom he had met before. If it weren't for his recent rapid increase in strength and the many means available to him, he would have to use the 5-colored star splitter arrow. Ning Qing knew that he couldn't use the 5-colored star splitter arrow right now. This thin man most likely belonged to Manjurin. Manjurin hadn't come out, and he couldn't find any trace of Manjurin. Ning Qing felt sure that as long as he killed this thin man with one arrow, Manjurin would definitely come out and become the fisherman. This thin man was truly an idiot. Manjurin pushed him out to die, yet he still didn't know it. Who is Ning Qing? Even if he knew that the other party knew that he was Ning Qing wouldn't admit it. Manjurin wasn't worth his fear. What really scared him was the person behind Manjurin. The thin man gave a cold snort. Whether you are Ning Qing or not, die for me. A pair of scissors that seemed to want to cut this space in half suddenly enveloped Ning Qing's space. Even Ning Qing's breathing felt shrouded within it. A powerful demonic essence aura came crashing down on him. Under this suppression, Ning Qing felt like a fallen leaf swaying in the wind and rain. He couldn't fight with this person for too long. Ning Qing didn't even bring out a weapon and directly slashed out with the spiritual consciousness chop. Since cultivating the spiritual consciousness chop, this was the first time Ning Qing used this cultivation method. Catcha! Because Ning Qing wanted to bring out the spiritual consciousness chop, his domain immediately weakened. Under the suppression of the other party's powerful domain, a crisp cracking sound rang out. The spiritual consciousness chop also blasted into the thin man's sea of consciousness at the same time. The thin man's expression changed, and he exclaimed in surprise. Ning Qing felt shocked to find that an invisible force had blocked his spiritual consciousness chop after it slashed into the other party's sea of consciousness. He couldn't let this person catch his breath. Once this person caught his breath and blocked the spiritual consciousness chop, he would have no choice but to wait for his death. Understanding this, Ning Qing punched out again without hesitation. It was a punch containing the laws of time. Without sunset's twilight, it was just a pure punch. This punch contained the Tao charm of the laws of time, which caused the thin man to freeze for a moment. The spiritual consciousness chop then crushed through the thin man's sea of consciousness without any hindrance. Almost without any pause, Ning Qing raised his hand and brought out a long black arrow. Chapter 879. The arrow frantically converged the killing aura around it, forming a vortex. Looking from afar, the killing intent around the arrow was getting more and more concentrated, and its momentum was getting more and more terrifying, but the arrow was getting weaker and weaker. The emaciated man had already broken free from Ning Qing's laws of time. Only he knew that Ning Qing's arrow, which was filled with endless killing intent, posed no threat to him at all. The real threat to him was the spiritual consciousness chop in his sea of consciousness. This was definitely a genuine spiritual consciousness cultivation method. If he couldn't resist it, then in just a few breaths, his sea of consciousness would collapse under this spiritual consciousness chop. The thin man opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. The aura of the Tao runes around his body circulated endlessly. An even more powerful spiritual consciousness swept out from his sea of consciousness, blocking Ning Qing's spiritual consciousness chop. The spiritual consciousness chop that blasted into the thin man's sea of consciousness instantly came to a halt, while at the same time, it also retreated. Ning Qing also could not bear it and also spurted out a mouthful of blood. With his spiritual consciousness chop suppressed, Ning Qing immediately knew that it was not good. This thin man was just too powerful. Ning Qing's spiritual consciousness chop combined with the laws of time couldn't kill this fellow. As long as he waited for this person to expel his spiritual consciousness chop, he would definitely die. Moreover, the 9th prince was waiting beside him. At this time, even if he threw out the strangulation array, it would be useless. This thin man was terrifyingly strong, even stronger than Hong Luan and the 9th prince. The spiritual consciousness chop completely relied on Ning Qing's sea of consciousness to support it, however, Ning Qing did not dare to burn his spiritual consciousness. He had to conserve his energy to deal with the 9th prince. The fake 5-colored star splitter arrow still gathered its imposing aura, but at this time, neither Ning Qing nor the thin man cared about this arrow. Even if this arrow was shot, it wouldn't be of much use. The gathered killing aura was merely a superficial phenomenon. Poof! The spiritual consciousness chop once again forced him to take a step back, while Ning Cheng once again spurted out a mouthful of blood. At this time, a faintly discernible shadow appeared in the range of Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness, causing Ning Cheng's heart to turn even more gloomy. He knew that the ninth prince had appeared. He couldn't let Manjuran know about his situation at this time, nor could he let Manjuran take action. Now that Ning Cheng had no other choice, how could he care about whether his heart liked her or not? Now that he had lost his life, he couldn't care less about the absorbing star's great technique. Once the spiritual sense chop was expelled from the other party's spiritual sense, he wouldn't even have the chance to use the dark nether spirit devourer. Divine sense, devour for me. A black whirlpool, invisible to the naked eye, appeared within the thin man's sea of consciousness. The thin man immediately felt as if his divine sense, which had gained the upper hand, had been devoured by something and had suddenly disappeared. Seeing that the spiritual consciousness chop was about to break free from his obstruction, he anxiously stimulated his spiritual consciousness once again. However, when he blasted out his divine sense again, it was also devoured by the black vortex. This is the vicious dark nether spirit devourer. The thin man opened his mouth and wanted to scream out, but his voice was completely suppressed by the spiritual consciousness chop. The spiritual consciousness chop broke free from the shackles of the thin man's sea of consciousness, and like a surging stream of iron, it came crashing down. The emaciated man's 7 apertures started to bleed, while his sea of consciousness completely collapsed. Even the giant scissors that were threatening Ning Cheng powerlessly fell to the ground. At this time, the long arrow in Ning Cheng's hand shot out. The colorful world completely covered the space between the two of them, and only the killing intent pervaded the air. Or rather, only the fake killing intent permeated around the thin man's body, which had already collapsed. Bang! The thin man's head exploded, and the 5-colored star splitter arrow disappeared without a trace. Ning Cheng grabbed the thin man's ring in his hand, slumped to the ground, and swallowed a few medicinal pills. Ning Cheng didn't need to disguise himself. His face had already turned pale, even though his spiritual consciousness still remained strong. But Ning Cheng knew that many of these spiritual consciousnesses had come from devouring them. This wasn't because his spiritual consciousness remained in his sea of consciousness. It wasn't a blessing for him, but a disaster. He couldn't refine these spiritual consciousnesses according to the dark nether spirit devourer scroll and take them for himself. Once he did that, he wouldn't be able to get up again. This thing was like taking drugs. As long as he refined it once, he would get a second time, a third time. Whether it was a blessing or not, he still had some use for these spiritual consciousnesses. Because Manjuran had already walked over unhurriedly. He looked at the thin man on the ground, killed by Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness chop, and showed a smile. Ning Cheng, you're the first genius I've ever seen. A puny middle-stage eternal cultivator killed Ding Xiao, a half-step Dao sculpting cultivator. I don't know if you can shoot another arrow at me, but I don't know. I'm really looking forward to it. Do you want my 5-colored star splitter arrow? Ning Cheng slowly stood up, and another black arrow appeared in his hand. Even knowing that Ning Cheng couldn't shoot the 5-colored star splitter arrow a second time, Manjuran's pupils shrank when he saw the black arrow in Ning Cheng's hand. In addition to this 5-colored star splitter arrow, you also have the life force plate. If I didn't guess wrong, my life force plate is also in your hands. Ning Cheng, I really appreciate you. If you hand over your soul and sign a servant contract with me, I can spare you once. The 9th prince spoke with a cold voice. If not for the life force plate's aura coming from Ning Cheng, Manjuran would have already taken action. At this moment, his domain had completely locked down Ning Cheng. Moreover, Manjuran had already felt Ning Cheng's aura weakening. Ning Cheng also understood why Manjuran had endured until now. Moreover, Ning Cheng guessed that his life force plate wasn't a righteous weapon. Maybe he hid it from his father. Regardless of Manjuran's reason, Ning Cheng knew that he couldn't stay here for long. Besides using the 5-colored star splitter arrow, he had no other way to deal with Manjuran. Knowing that he would weaken after shooting this arrow, Ning Qing didn't hesitate to stimulate his spiritual consciousness and celestial essence. The black arrow floated in front of Ning Qing, and a 5-colored longbow suddenly appeared under the arrow. A gray aura of death quickly spread out, and the surrounding killing power started to churn. At this moment, heaven and earth changed color, and everything seemed to have lost their dominion over life. Death aura, terrifying killing intent, spatial killing power, it slowly swept up, forming a whirlpool-like hole that condensed into a gray aura of death. Manjuran immediately locked onto the 5-colored star splitter arrow the moment it came out. He stared at Ning Qing in horror and didn't dare to move. How is this possible? How can you shoot a second arrow? This is absolutely impossible. Manjuran muttered to himself in a hoarse voice. His eyes didn't show madness but fear. No matter how heaven-defying Ning Qing was, he couldn't shoot 2 arrows in a row in the eternal realm. The first time he faced the 5-colored star splitter arrow, he managed to escape with his life because of a substitute. But this time, he didn't have a substitute. Ning Qing didn't show any sadness or joy. Instead, his celestial essence and spiritual consciousness still crazily pressed down on Manjuran. Since he could kill Manjuran once, he could kill him a second time. Manjuran's domain began to collapse, and the gray-colored killing intent from the 5-colored star splitter arrow swept through everything around him. Ning Cheng's hair gradually turned dry, and his face grew paler. The black arrow grew fainter, while the 5-colored longbow grew more and more multicolored, and the gray aura of death grew thicker and thicker. This gray-colored killing intent was fundamentally different from the previous arrow. If the previous one was just a shape, this one was the real substance. I understand. Manjuran's eyes turned red. He finally understood that Ning Cheng's previous arrow was a fake. Ning Cheng had a fake 5-colored star splitter arrow. Ning Cheng knew that he was looking for him, so he refined a fake arrow to create an illusion. You can't kill me, put down your arrow. Knowing that Ning Cheng couldn't put down the arrow, Manjuran still screamed in madness. If his corporeal body collapsed this time, he would have to remain like this for the rest of his life. He absolutely couldn't accept it. He wanted to control the entire barbarian dragon clan and become the top powerhouse in the Grand Essence realm. Ka! The multicolored lights around the 5-colored star splitter arrow suddenly dissipated, and a deathly aura poured out. Despair rose in Manjuran's heart. The moment the 5-colored star splitter arrow tore through his body, his essence spirit escaped at a speed countless times faster than the light shadow. Ning Cheng had just spat out a mouthful of blood when he heard Manjuran's essence spirit scream, Ning Cheng, you dare to lay down an essence spirit entrapment array, you dare to kill me. You. Ning Cheng didn't care about Manjuran's threat. Manjuran had escaped several times, so he had long since prepared for it. Even Pan Qian couldn't catch this fellow's escape method, so how could he not guard against it? He had arranged the essence spirit entrapment array for this moment. Throwing out a celestial river flame, it destroyed Manjuran's soul. Unfortunately, Manjuran's ring was destroyed. After killing the thin man, he felt too exhausted. Since he no longer had the strength to preserve Manjuran's ring, he could only let the ring and Manjuran blow up together. After the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn, Ning Qing finally finished dealing with the scene of the fight, and was completely exhausted. He could only summon Chasing Bull and let Chasing Bull take him away from this place. The opening of the Grand Essence Mystic Realm was the biggest event for all the sects in the Grand Essence domain. However, as the barbarian dragon clan's Dragon Emperor, Man Huishan, remained in the Grand Essence ruins. The 5-colored star splitter arrow was too important to him. If he had the 5-colored star splitter arrow, even if he wasn't a primordial essence holy emperor, a primordial essence holy emperor would still fear him. The barbarian dragon clan looked glorious on the surface, but in reality, they were already on the decline. In other words, without Man Sua Tian suppressing the various sects, the barbarian dragon clan's glory would have long been gone. The barbarian dragon clan did not have many successors. Until now, apart from Mansuatian, they did not have another primordial chaos divine emperor. Even he himself had been stuck at primordial Tao for more than 100,000 years. However, after old ancestor Mansuatian fused with the Tao, he never showed his face again. If something were to happen, who could the barbarian dragon tribe rely on? They would still have to rely on him, the Dragon Emperor. In the best private room in the Grand Essence Ruins rest stop, Man Huishan casually picked up the spiritual tea on the table and took a sip. Whether the five-colored star splitter arrow fell on lifeless poison hand, heartless monk, or Ning Cheng, no one else could know about it. This weapon, he, Man Huishan, had to get it. After taking a sip of the spiritual tea, Man Huishan's expression changed drastically before he could even put the teacup on the table. He immediately threw the teacup in his hand and slapped the table in front of him into nothingness. Then, he suddenly stood up and roared, "Who dared to kill this Man Huishan's son?" Chapter 880. Whether he dared or not, Ning Cheng had already killed Man Juren. At this moment, he was healing in an abandoned cave. He had placed a few defensive and concealment array discs at the entrance of the cave, while Chasing Bull stood guard at the cave entrance to help warn others. Chasing Bull currently only had the strength of a Class 7 Starry Sky demonic beast. In this place, it could only serve as a warning. None of the cultivators who could enter this mystic realm had a cultivation below the eternal realm. Some disciples of large sects had even reached half-step Tao sculpting. If Chasing Bull had to face these cultivators, it wouldn't even be able to last a single round. Previously, every time Ning Cheng brought out the five-colored star splitter arrow, he would have to rest for more than a month. But this time, Ning Cheng only took half a month to fully recover. When Ning Cheng came out of this deserted cave, he did not feel much joy in his heart. The spiritual consciousnesses that he had swallowed were mixed in his sea of consciousness. If he didn't get rid of them, he wouldn't be able to cultivate at all, let alone advance. However, no matter how hard he tried, he was unable to separate the devoured divine senses. Perhaps there was only one way to go, and that was to refine these divine senses into his own. Ning Cheng did not want to do this, nor did he dare to do this. Even if he didn't think about the spiritual consciousness that he had swallowed from his sea of consciousness, he couldn't hide the fact that he killed Man Juren. But even if he couldn't cover it up, Ning Cheng would still kill Man Juren without hesitation. Killing Man Juren might have put him in a bad situation. But if he didn't kill Man Juren, it would be even worse for him. Putting all these things together, it would be strange if Ning Cheng was happy about it. Fortunately, there was still a year left. Ning Cheng decided to put these worries aside and concentrate on collecting divine grasses. The Grand Essence Mystic Realm truly was a massive place. Even with nearly 10,000 people entering this mystic realm, Ning Cheng hadn't met a single person for a few days. In just a few days, he managed to collect Black Fog Heavenly Grass, Desolate God Sprout, Zen Spirit Flower, and more than a dozen kinds of low-grade and mid-grade divine herbs. As for high-grade divine grasses, Ning Cheng didn't see a single one. As for finding enough divine grasses and participating in the Grand Essence Great Meet, Ning Cheng had long since put it aside. Tens of thousands of people entered this mystic realm to collect divine grasses and search for all kinds of heavenly treasures. If he wanted to enter the top 10, it would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. This was not a matter of cultivation or strength. It was completely dependent on luck. Ning Cheng knew that because he possessed a good fortune treasure, his luck had always been good. However, a little bit of luck and a great destiny were two different things. Finding divine grasses like this was completely a matter of luck. On this day, Ning Cheng had just found a Buddha golden sifting fruit when he felt a violent spatial fluctuation rushing over. His spiritual consciousness immediately swept over, but it was quickly blocked. Although the Grand Essence Mystic Realm didn't directly suppress one's spiritual consciousness, it couldn't penetrate any further. Even with Ning Cheng's Starry Sky Sea of Consciousness, his spiritual consciousness could only linger within a radius of 1 to 2,000 miles. This kind of spatial fluctuation definitely indicated a battle between cultivators. Ning Cheng initially did not want to get involved in this kind of thing. Sensing the faint aura of high-grade divine grasses coming from the spatial fluctuations, Ning Qing immediately changed his mind. Even after searching for so long, he still hadn't found a single high-grade divine grass. Some of the high-grade divine grasses were even more precious than ordinary Dao fruits. Therefore, when he sensed the aura of these high-grade divine grasses, Ning Qing immediately wanted to check it out. What if he encountered a large field of high-grade divine herbs? No one here would be courteous with you. Taking out an appearance-changing mask and changing his appearance to that of a fierce-looking male cultivator, Ning Qing quickly rushed over. After more than 10 breaths, Ning Qing stopped. Dozens of cultivators had already arrived at this place. Most likely, like Ning Qing, these cultivators came over after sensing the spatial fluctuations. What appeared in front of Ning Qing was a huge entrance to a concealed defensive array formation. The entrance to the concealed defensive array formation looked broken, most likely due to an attack from the cultivators here. From the looks of it, the spatial fluctuations he felt a moment ago didn't come from a fight, but from someone attacking the defensive array formation here. As he got closer, the aura of high-grade divine grasses overflowing from the entrance grew even stronger. Obviously, this concealed defensive array formation contained many high-grade divine grasses. Ning Qing felt happy. This concealed defensive array formation hadn't been broken yet, which meant that he had arrived just in time. Everyone, keep attacking. Although this concealed defensive array formation is strong, it can only last for half an incense stick worth of time at most. A square-faced male cultivator brought out a weapon and walked up to the concealed defensive array formation before speaking up. Ning Cheng's gaze swept over the square-faced male cultivator and felt a slight surprise in his heart. This person was only at the late-stage eternal realm, but the powerful aura coming from this square-faced male cultivator didn't lose out to the thin man he killed before. Ning Qing knew very well that the thin man brought by the 9th prince as cannon fodder was a genuine half-step Dao sculpting powerhouse. A late-stage eternal cultivator didn't lose out to a half-step Dao sculpting cultivator. This fellow truly was powerful. Brother Hua, wait. There are more and more people here. After we break the array formation, how will we distribute the things inside? A man in a snow-white robe stood up. When Ning Qing saw this white-robed man, his eyes narrowed again. Why were there so many experts here? This white-robed man's cultivation wasn't any weaker than the square-faced cultivator. He was another top-notch powerhouse. What surprised Ning Qing even more was that this white-robed man was also at the late-stage eternal realm. The lower one's cultivation, the stronger one's strength, and the greater one's potential. The square-faced male cultivator nodded when he heard this and said, Bai Yi is right. There are 34 people here. If they all rush in, it would be very chaotic to distribute the things. After the square-faced cultivator surnamed Hua finished speaking, his eyes swept over the rest of the cultivators. Ning Qing understood what he meant. It wasn't that the distribution of things would be chaotic, but that the more people there were, the less each person would get. At this moment, a pointy-mouthed man stood up. He smiled and saluted the white-robed male cultivator and the square-faced male cultivator before saying, although there are many people here, Elder Brother Hua and Elder Brother Chu are both powerhouses among the Grand Essence's 12 sacred children. Therefore, we will naturally listen to the 2 sacred children's orders. Only then did Ning Qing understand. No wonder these 2 people had such powerful auras. It turned out to be 2 of the Grand Essence's 12 sacred children. The Grand Essence's 12 sacred children truly didn't have an undeserved reputation. Just by looking at these 2 fellows, Ning Qing could imagine the power of the other 10. The cultivator surnamed Hua nodded and spoke up in a clear voice, since everyone can gather together, it's also fate. Since many of you know me, Hua Erqi and Chu Bai, I won't talk much nonsense. After we break this concealment array formation, we'll take a look at the divine grasses inside and then divide them between the 2 of us. Does anyone have any objections? This distribution plan looked shameless at first glance, and Ning Qing felt sure that someone would stand up and oppose it. But to Ning Cheng's disappointment, not only did no one object, but everyone also shouted in agreement. Ning Qing couldn't help but sigh in his heart. The prestige of these grand essence's 12 sacred children was just too great. Chu Bai suddenly frowned and his gaze fell on Ning Cheng. He then spoke up with a flat tone, "This friend, everyone agreed just now, but you didn't say anything. Do you not agree with Brother Hua's proposal?" Ning Cheng replied calmly, "The two of you are the grand essence's 12 sacred children, famous existences. Naturally, you don't know about our bitter pursuit of high-grade divine grasses. If the two of you casually give us some low-grade divine herbs after we open it, do you still need to ask for our consent?" Hua Erqi's face sank when he heard Ning Cheng's words. He gave a cold snort. "What do you think we should do?" Others might fear the grand essence's 12 sacred children, but Ning Cheng didn't feel any fear. He had already changed his appearance. These cultivators hadn't even reached the Tao sculpting realm. No matter how strong they were, they couldn't recognize him. Now that Hua Erqi asked him, he spoke up without any hesitation, "Let's attack this concealment array together and then compete for the divine grasses with our own strength." On the surface, Ning Cheng didn't have the strength to challenge Hua Erqi and Chu Bai. But Ning Cheng spoke from the standpoint of the other cultivators. Naturally, no one would stand up and speak nonsense at this time. No one spoke, but Hua Erqi and Chu Bai naturally understood what was going on. Despite the ugly expressions on their faces, Chu Bai could only say, "In that case, let's follow this friend's suggestion. Let's break the concealment array together and then rely on our own opportunities." Although he said those words, he had already memorized Ning Cheng's words in his heart. According to his previous proposal, no one here would dare to oppose it. Who would dare to oppose the Grand Essence's 12 sacred children? Unfortunately, at this time, someone stood up and opposed it. 30 or 40 eternal cultivators attacked the concealment array together. No matter how strong the concealment array's defense was, it couldn't stop such a powerful attack. In less than half an incense stick worth of time, a boom rang out, and the concealment array shattered on the spot. A lush greenery appeared in front of everyone's eyes, and a more intense aura of divine grasses rushed out. But before everyone could rush in surprise, 2 angry roars erupted, and 2 huge black holes suddenly appeared in front of them. Bursts of fishy smell came out, and Ning Cheng felt the space around him getting suppressed. His protective domain started to shatter inch by inch, and his body also started to get imprisoned. At the same time, a black poisonous mist swept over. Ning Cheng immediately felt something was wrong. As his spiritual consciousness swept out, the laws of space spread out around him, and his body instantly regained its freedom. Ning Cheng quickly activated his twin wings of the heavenly clouds, and in the blink of an eye, he had already moved a few hundred feet away. Behind Ning Cheng, screams and lights from various weapons intertwined with each other, and even the space around him started to shake. A group of distressed figures, like Ning Cheng, quickly retreated to the periphery. After a dozen breaths, the chaos finally ended, and Ning Cheng finally saw what the 2 black holes were. 2 centipedes, hundreds of feet long, stood in front of the concealment defensive array that everyone had just opened. At the same time, a powerful demonic essence aura swept out in waves. Even if Ning Cheng stood far away, he could still feel the power coming from it. These 2 ferocious centipedes had a humanoid face and a scarlet body. No one knew how many thick legs grew over their bodies, and each leg looked like a long blade. One of the centipedes even had a blood-stained rag hanging from the corner of its mouth. "This is a human-faced poison centipede," a female cultivator called out in shock. Only then did Ning Cheng discover that out of the original group of more than 30 people, only 25 remained. Just now, it had swallowed 7 or 8 eternal powerhouses with just 2 mouths. This human-faced poison centipede truly was powerful. Everyone knew about the strength of this human-faced poison centipede, but no one left this place. Behind these 2 poisonous centipedes was a field of divine grasses with extremely rich spiritual qi. Facing the temptation of so many divine grasses, only an idiot would leave. What's more, there were no idiots here. How could a place with so many lush divine grasses not have any other secrets? Chapter 881. After the two human-faced poison centipedes saw everyone retreat to a certain range, they didn't immediately rush up. Instead, they roared and seemed to be discussing something with each other. Although the cultivators present couldn't understand what the two poison centipedes were discussing, they understood that as long as they stayed here, the two human-faced poison centipedes would rush up in a short while. Chu Bai, who wore white robes, suddenly spoke up, "We still have 24 people here. Since everyone wants to stay here, we naturally all want the divine grasses hidden in the array formation. If we don't kill these two human-faced poison centipedes, we won't be able to obtain the divine grasses. What I mean is that everyone split into two groups. One group will deal with one human-faced poison centipede. Huarqi and I will form a group, and another 10 people." As soon as Chu Bai's words fell, 10 cultivators quickly landed beside Chu Bai and Huarqi. Ning Cheng's group of 12 didn't need to choose at all and directly came out. Some of the slower cultivators saw Chu Bai and Huarqi form a group and looked at each other in dismay. Chu Bai and Huarqi were the strongest among the Grand Essence's 12 sacred children. Logically speaking, the two of them should each lead a group. But the fact was that the two of them ended up in the same group. How many fools could cultivate to the eternal realm and enter the Grand Essence mystic realm? Everyone understood that Chu Bai and Huarqi wanted to kill them with a borrowed knife. Chu Bai and Huarqi, plus 10 other powerhouses, would have no problem dealing with one human-faced poison centipede. As for the other 12 people, they didn't have any powerhouses to lead them. As such, the human-faced poison centipedes could only be killed one by one. At most, they could only delay for some time. Chu Bai wanted to stall for time. By the time they killed the first poison centipede, most of the other cultivators would have died. Then, they would free up their hands and kill the second human-faced poison centipede. In this way, not only did they kill the two poison centipedes, but they also killed the second one. The number of people who could get a share of the divine grasses would also decrease. Seeing the other group of 12 people remaining silent, Chu Bai continued with a cold voice, "This friend also said that everyone should work together and then distribute the divine grasses according to their strength. Since two human-faced poison centipedes appeared here, I believe no one would not want to work and just sit back and enjoy the fruits of others' labor, right?" Saying that, he stared at Ning Cheng with cold eyes. Just a moment ago, it was Ning Cheng who opposed Huarqi's proposal. Seeing Chu Bai staring at Ning Cheng, some of the cultivators standing close to Ning Cheng subconsciously stepped aside. Huarqi promptly cooperated with Chu Bai and spoke up, "I agree with Bai's words. If you don't want to fight, then please leave this place immediately. However, there's something I have to say first. If anyone were to purposely leak information about this place after leaving this place, they would become a great enemy of Bai and I." When the cultivators heard the words of these two, they were already thinking of retreating. Who didn't know how powerful the human-faced poison centipede was? However, no one dared to offend Chu Bai and Huarqi. Ning Cheng slowly walked out with a middle-rank spirit artifact long spear in his hand. He then spoke with a calm tone, "In that case, I'll be in the other group. Dao friends who are willing to join my group, please come over. If you don't want to, then please leave. I want to join Brother Hua and Brother Chu's group." Hearing Ning Cheng's words, someone immediately spoke up. Ning Cheng had already offended both Huarqi and Chu Bai, so who would want to join his group? Ning Cheng showed a smile and spoke to Chu Bai, "Brother Chu, this friend said that he doesn't want to split up and wants everyone to attack together." Before Chu Bai could answer, the cultivator's expression changed and quickly retorted, "You better be careful with your words. Don't try to sow discord. When did I say that I didn't want to split up?" Ning Cheng gave a cold snort, "Don't you know how to count, or are you blind? The 24 people here are divided into two groups, and the other group already has 12 people. If you want to join, doesn't it mean that everyone will be added to the same group?" "You." The cultivator on seeing Ning Cheng's sophistry suddenly felt angry. Huarqi saw the two human-faced poison centipedes' auras growing stronger and stronger, as if they would rush over at any time. He no longer bothered to talk nonsense and spoke up with a cold voice, "That's it. Our group of 12 people will deal with the human-faced poison centipede on the left. The others will deal with the one on the right. If you don't want to join the other group, then scram. Just as Huarqi's voice fell, the two poison centipedes rushed over. Chu Bai and Huarqi brought out their weapons together and shouted to the others at the same time, "You guys block the other one." Huarqi and Chu Bai both had formidable strength. The two of them stretched out their domains and quickly superimposed their own group's domains. The 12 people brought out their weapons at the same time and managed to block the human-faced poison centipede on the left. The other human-faced poison centipede immediately rushed towards Ning Cheng's side and suppressed him with its spatial shackles. Ning Cheng didn't do anything at all. Instead, he stimulated his domain to block the human-faced poison centipede's spatial shackles. The two cultivators who wanted to escape ended up bound by the human-faced poison centipede. Then, a spatial vortex appeared and sucked the two into the mouth of the human-faced poison centipede. This side hadn't formed a team yet, and now that the poison centipede rushed over, they immediately lost 2 people. The remaining people immediately scattered. The 3 cultivators on the periphery didn't hesitate to launch their escape lights and disappeared without a trace in an instant. Divine grasses were good, but no matter how good they were, they needed to be alive to enjoy them. The rest of the people, including Ning Cheng, all ended up trapped by the human-faced poison centipede's spatial shackles. Even if they wanted to leave, they couldn't. "Everyone, let's do our best. Otherwise, we can only wait for death." Even without Ning Cheng's orders, someone already saw the danger. Ning Cheng saw that the rest of the people didn't try to escape and chose to take action. Only then did he fully unleash his domain. At the same time, he also released a maximal flame spirit technique. At this time, Ning Cheng's maximal flame spirit technique was no longer a pseudo-spirit technique like before. Instead, it was a true space-type spirit technique. The human-faced poison centipede attacking Ning Cheng's group had just swallowed 2 people and gained the upper hand. Therefore, it was in high spirits and spat out a gray spatial vortex. Seeing that another eternal cultivator was about to be sucked into the giant mouth of the poison centipede, the surrounding space suddenly turned violent. A similar spatial collapse appeared under the human-faced poison centipede's giant mouth, and a terrifying hot aura spread out. However, as soon as this spatial collapse appeared, the spatial vortex spat out by the human-faced poison centipede kept chipping away at it. From this, one could imagine that in just a few moments, the spatial collapse brought about by Ning Cheng's maximal flame spirit technique would be completely sucked away by the spatial vortex spat out by the human-faced poison centipede. Most likely, Ning Cheng hadn't fully activated his spirit technique yet. A late-stage eternal cultivator anxiously roared at Ning Cheng, "Don't use this meaningless spirit technique. Even if you cast this spirit technique, it wouldn't cause any damage to the human-faced poison centipede." Ning Cheng didn't care about this cultivator's roar at all. If he were such an idiot, he would have already died 100 times over. A spiritual consciousness chop silently slammed into the human-faced poison centipede's sea of consciousness, and the spatial vortex spat out by the human-faced poison centipede suddenly weakened. Even the eternal cultivator, who was about to be sucked into the vortex's giant mouth, managed to escape in a hurry. While the cultivator was still in shock, a terrifying flaming spatial collapse exploded under the human-faced poison centipede's head. The human-faced poison centipede screamed as the maximal flame spirit technique blew a hole in its chin, and black blood fell down like rain. The moment Ning Cheng's maximal flame spirit technique exploded, the human-faced poison centipede also forced the spiritual consciousness chop out of its sea of consciousness. The cultivators in the same group as Ning Cheng, how could they not understand Ning Cheng's strength at this time? Feeling confident, they immediately went all out. Even if Ning Cheng angered the human-faced poison centipede and caused it to erupt with even more violent attacks, the battle was no longer one-sided. All kinds of spirit techniques and spells erupted. Ning Cheng's sea of consciousness had already suffered a blow from the spiritual consciousness chop, and Ning Cheng's maximal flame spirit technique had also injured the human-faced poison centipede's sea of consciousness. Even if it started a riot, it would only last for a short period. As long as they could survive this period, they could gain the upper hand. No one knew that Ning Cheng had used a spiritual consciousness attack. But everyone knew that they had to survive this period. Ning Cheng only occasionally used one or two maximal flame spirit techniques during the fight. He only used the traceless spear pattern to deal with the human-faced poison centipede. The human-faced poison centipede had many means of attack. In addition to the poisonous mist blades, its blade-like feet, which were akin to spirit artifacts, would explode every time it collided with a cultivator's spirit technique. However, the human-faced poison centipede's most powerful attack was its spatial vortexes. Once someone got caught in the spatial vortexes of the human-faced poison centipede, they would end up in the mouth of the human-faced poison centipede. Ning Cheng didn't use any killing moves. Instead, he constantly used the spiritual consciousness chop to launch sneak attacks. Once someone got caught in the spatial vortexes of the human-faced poison centipede, he would immediately use the spiritual consciousness chop. Every time the human-faced poison centipede's sea of consciousness suffered an attack, its spatial vortexes would suddenly stagnate. At this time, Ning Cheng's long spear would inevitably arrive and rescue the cultivator caught in it. This made the human-faced poison centipede extremely angry. Although it didn't let Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness chop enter its sea of consciousness, Ning Cheng's actions had seriously affected its strength. At every critical moment, it had to let go of its prey. This kind of grievance made it want to rush to Ning Cheng's side and swallow him whole. After a long time, the cultivators in Ning Cheng's group started to see the problem. The reason why their group could gain the upper hand, and none of the 7 people had fallen so far, was all thanks to Ning Cheng. As long as Ning Cheng didn't fall, none of them could get swept away by the human-faced poison centipede. As for the poisoned blades on their bodies, after the human-faced poison centipede died, they would have plenty of time to detoxify it. In the end, among the 7 people, 2 people were assigned to protect Ning Cheng, while the rest focused on attacking the human-faced poison centipede with all their might. No matter how powerful the human-faced poison centipede's corporeal body was, or how powerful its spatial vortexes were, with Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness chop sneak attacking it from the side, it couldn't exert its full strength. In a one-on-one fight, Ning Cheng's current spiritual consciousness chop couldn't do anything to the human-faced poison centipede. But now was not a one-on-one fight. As long as Ning Cheng could contain the human-faced poison centipede's maximum lethality, someone else would go and kill the human-faced poison centipede. Similar to what everyone expected, in less than half an hour, the human-faced poison centipede's rampage weakened. At this time, Ning Cheng didn't even need to use the spiritual consciousness chop, the others could easily suppress the human-faced poison centipede. After the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn, the human-faced poison centipede let out a roar, and a black-faced cultivator slammed it to the ground, unable to get up again. Chapter 882. The 7 people on Ning Cheng's side couldn't believe that the human-faced poison centipede had died. Except for Ning Cheng, most of the 7 people had suffered some injuries. But injuries and deaths were 2 completely different things. 7 people had killed a human-faced poison centipede, and only a few of them had suffered some injuries. It was simply incredible. Looking at the celestial essence explosions and spirit techniques in the distance, the people in Ning Cheng's group finally determined that their group had completed their task. They only needed to wait for the divine grasses to be distributed. They only have 7 people left. A female cultivator spoke up in shock. Everyone looked over and saw that only 7 people remained. The 2 people with the Grand Essence's 12 sacred children had lost 5 people in the fight against the human-faced poison centipede. One had to know that apart from the 3 people who had escaped, only 2 cultivators had died in the human-faced poison centipede. In fact, the 2 cultivators hadn't even started fighting when they were swallowed. The cultivator who said that Ning Cheng's spirit technique was useless took the initiative to bow in front of Ning Cheng and apologize. I didn't know that this fellow cultivator was so strong. I had eyes but failed to see and spoke nonsense. I hope this Dao friend can forgive me. This poison centipede is up to Dao friend to decide how to distribute it. Although Ning Cheng didn't show any outstanding strength, as long as they weren't fools, they understood that their victory had something to do with Ning Cheng. This kind of unseen means was the most frightening one. Offending a powerhouse like Ning Cheng, who was almost as strong as the Grand Essence's 12 sacred children, was the act of an idiot. Moreover, the remaining people also knew that the reason why the human-faced poison centipede swallowed 2 people in their group was because Ning Cheng deliberately didn't take action. Because of the 2 people facing the human-faced poison centipede's attack, one wanted to run away, while the other wanted to join the other group. Ning Cheng smiled. This time, we managed to kill the human-faced poison centipede because of our joint efforts. No one could have won by relying on one person. The strength of the 7 of us is the same, and there's no difference in strength. As for this human-faced poison centipede, I don't plan to take it. You can divide it among yourselves. After saying that, Ning Cheng's gaze swept over the faces of the other 6 people. Ning Cheng's current appearance was that of a fierce fellow. Therefore, when his cold gaze swept over them, the other 6 people felt a chill in their hearts. The 6 people understood Ning Cheng's implication. That is, don't reveal my means to others. I don't like it. If others ask, then we'll all do the same, we'll work together. Not to mention that Ning Cheng did not want the human-faced poison centipede, the 6 of them naturally felt happy in their hearts. The value of the human-faced poison centipede was not low to begin with, and with the rings in its stomach, its value was even higher. Although the 6 of them did not understand why Ning Cheng did not want the poisonous centipede, but no one would refuse such a good thing. The 6 people quickly distributed the things on the poison centipede's body before watching Chu Baiyi's group of 7 fight the human-faced poison centipede with Ning Cheng. No one went up to help. Since this was something that had been agreed upon, no one would look for trouble for no reason. Looking at Chu Baiyi and Hua Erqi's group besieging the human-faced poison centipede, Ning Cheng gained a new understanding of the spiritual consciousness chop. No wonder such a powerful spiritual sense cultivation method was so attractive. His team could quickly kill the human-faced poison centipede without causing too much damage. Obviously, it was not because of his strength, but because of his spiritual consciousness chop. He didn't let the other 6 people talk about it, not because he was afraid of revealing his strength, but because of his spiritual consciousness spirit technique. At the same time, another human-faced poison centipede swallowed another cultivator. Hua Erqi's octagonal sledgehammer smashed into the human-faced poison centipede's head. The human-faced poison centipede finally exhausted itself and fell to the ground. Following that, several weapons slammed into the human-faced poison centipede on the ground, killing it instantly. After killing the human-faced poison centipede, only 6 people remained in Chu Baiyi's group. Apart from Chu Baiyi and Hua Erqi, who suffered minor injuries, the other 4 all suffered severe injuries. After the 6 people distributed the human-faced poison centipede, Chu Baiyi glanced at Ning Cheng and spoke with a faint tone. It turns out that the real powerhouse is in your group. You guys are much stronger than my group. Although he said that, his gaze fell on Ning Cheng. He suspected that Ning Cheng was the real powerhouse. Ordinary cultivators, who would dare to ignore the Grand Essence's 12 sacred children? Ning Cheng spoke up unhurriedly. Everyone in my group did their best. Unlike the others, who only used half of their strength. Chu Baiyi and Hua Erqi's expressions immediately turned ugly. Ning Cheng's words clearly mocked the 2 of them for not going all out. In fact, it was indeed the case. If they had gone all out, at most 2 out of the 12 people would have died. If Ning Cheng's group hadn't already dealt with the poison centipede, they would have lost 1 or 2 more people before the battle would have ended. Ning Cheng's words had stirred up quite a bit of discord, causing the surviving cultivators in Chu Baiyi's group to immediately take a few steps back in vigilance. If Ning Cheng hadn't said those words, everyone wouldn't have thought of it. But as soon as Ning Cheng said it, the cultivators in Chu Baiyi's and Hua Erqi's group immediately thought of some problems during the fight. What's more, their group had 2 members from the Grand Essence's 12 sacred children. Yet, they suffered such heavy injuries. How could they not raise suspicions? Hua Erqi suddenly gave a cold snort. Who did you say didn't contribute? Ning Cheng spoke up calmly. I said I didn't contribute. Didn't you see that I suffered the lightest injuries in my group? Is there anyone else like me who didn't contribute and feels guilty? Even an idiot knew that Ning Cheng was talking about Chu Baiyi and Hua Erqi. Ning Qing didn't suffer any injuries at all. In fact, Chu Bai and Hua Erqi suffered the lightest injuries. Chu Bai didn't wait for Hua Erqi to speak and quickly spoke up, "The human-faced poison centipede is gone. Everyone, let's grab the divine grasses. Whoever grabs them can keep them." After saying that, he rushed in first. He knew that almost no one stood on their side at this time. Therefore, he wanted to grab the divine grasses and leave as soon as possible. As soon as Chu Bai moved, the rest of the people immediately forgot about everything else and rushed in. Ning Qing activated the twin wings of the heavenly clouds and rushed into the broken concealment array formation before Chu Bai. As soon as he entered the concealment array formation, a more intense aura of divine grasses filled the air. Each divine herb garden was neatly arranged, and each divine herb garden was protected by a crystal array formation. Except for a few medicinal gardens with broken array formations, most of the medicinal gardens had intact array formations. If one wanted to obtain these divine grasses, they would have to continue to break the array formations. Every cultivator who came in understood the reason in an instant. Almost at the same time, these cultivators rushed towards the medicinal gardens with broken defensive arrays. Apparently, everyone had the same idea. That is, they wanted to take away the divine grasses that didn't need to break the defensive arrays first. Ning Qing was the only one among the 13 people who didn't rush in. The medicinal gardens with broken array formations only contained low-level divine grasses. What he wanted were high-grade divine grasses. The divine grasses here were protected by defensive arrays, which was the best for Ning Qing. Unlike other cultivators, Ning Cheng's attainments in the Tao of arrays surpassed his cultivation. The defensive arrays here weren't particularly complicated. For him, it would only take him a few minutes to enter each defensive array. If he wanted to attack them, even if several people joined forces, it might take him an incense stick worth of time or even longer. Ning Qing also rushed towards a medicinal garden. But this time, he rushed towards a high-grade divine herb garden. Just as the other cultivators finished looting the divine grasses in the medicinal gardens with broken defensive arrays, Ning Qing also broke the defensive array of this high-grade divine herb garden. Hundreds of various high-grade divine grasses appeared in front of Ning Qing. But Ning Qing didn't dig them up one by one. Instead, he threw down a few array flags and moved the entire medicinal garden into the true spirit world. "I didn't expect this friend to be a spirit array master, hee. Hua Erqi saw Ning Qing put away a high-grade divine herb garden, and his eyes flashed with jealousy. By this time, everyone had already looted the medicinal gardens with broken array formations. The other dozen people looked at Ning Qing in shock, just like Hua Erqi. Cultivators who could enter the Grand Essence mystic realm naturally wouldn't be weak. However, this strength mostly referred to cultivation. As for the Tao of arrays, there weren't many who were as strong as Ning Qing. Only a few people could match Ning Qing in the Tao of arrays. Seeing that Chu Bai and Hua Erqi didn't continue to attack the rest of the medicinal gardens, the others also stopped. No one was stupid enough to attack the medicinal gardens. Now that the defensive array formations were broken, everyone would rush up and attack the medicinal gardens. Chu Bai also came over and cupped his fists towards Ning Qing. "Tao friend has some skills. This medicinal garden not only has a guardian beast but also an array formation. Presumably, it was arranged by an ancient peerless powerhouse." Ning Qing interrupted Chu Bai's words, "What do you want to say? If there's nothing else, don't delay me from digging the divine grasses." Chu Bai gave a hollow laugh. "What I mean is, now that the two human-faced poison centipedes are dead, we only have 13 people left. Why don't we discuss how to break the array formations here?" Ning Qing sneered. What did he mean by breaking the array formations here? To put it bluntly, he wanted him to quickly break the array formations here and then distribute the divine grasses among everyone. Very good. Hearing Ning Qing say the word, very good, Chu Bai felt happy and thought that this fellow truly feared him and Hua Erqi. But Ning Qing continued, "I won't disturb your distribution. You can take your time and don't pay any attention to me." After saying that, Ning Cheng's figure flashed and landed next to another high-grade divine grass's defensive array. Chu Baiyi's face turned livid with anger, and his tone lost its previous warmth. "This friend, do you want to eat it alone?" Ning Cheng raised his hand, and the long spear fell into his palm. A powerful domain's imposing aura spread out, and he stared at Chu Baiyi with a cold gaze. "Are you deaf, or have you lost your mind? Before entering this place, everyone said that it's up to their own abilities to snatch. Could it be that your face is your butt? Your words are the same as your fart, they can be exchanged. You're looking for death." Chu Baiyi was one of the weakest among the Grand Essence's 12 sacred children. But he was also the one who cared about his face the most. He usually wore white robes and looked elegant. How could he bear Ning Cheng's mockery of him? With a wave of his hand, a white shadow tore through the air and arrived. Chu Baiyi's weapon was a piece of white silk. Even a full-circle eternal cultivator wouldn't fare well against this white silk. Ning Cheng didn't care about Chu Baiyi's attack at all. Instead, he said to the others, "There are 10 or 20 medicinal gardens here. I suggest that everyone form a temporary team to attack the medicinal garden's defensive array. Don't be like this idiot." While speaking, Ning Cheng's long spear shot out spear patterns one after another. Just like Chu Baiyi's white shadow, it also crossed the space between the two. Ning Cheng hadn't asked for anything from the human-faced poison centipede before because of this moment. He had put in the most effort in the fight outside, but he didn't even want to share the loot. At this time, if someone joined forces with Chu Baiyi and Hua Erqi to deal with him, it would be too shameless. When Ning Cheng's voice fell, the spear patterns and the white shadow created by Chu Baiyi's white silk had already collided. Chu Baiyi felt his domain being suppressed by Ning Cheng's domain. At the same time, the spear patterns that collided with the white silk suddenly split apart. The spear patterns looked like planets exploding, and a majestic momentum crushed everything in its path. Chapter 883. He was definitely not a match for this cultivator in front of him. That was the only thought in Chu Baiyi's mind after their attacks collided. Chu Baiyi immediately retreated the moment his domain shattered. He hoped that Ning Cheng would not take the opportunity to chase after him. Ning Cheng didn't chase after Chu Baiyi, however, the power from the backlash caused his dantian to churn and his sea of consciousness to experience a tearing pain. It almost caused him to spit out a mouthful of blood. After completely removing the backlash, Chu Baiyi looked at Ning Cheng in a daze. Where did this cultivator come from? How could he be so powerful? The power of this domain wasn't any weaker than a half-step Dao modeling. Moreover, it wasn't a soft half-step Dao modeling. He ranked 11th among the Grand Essence's 12 sacred children, but he clearly wasn't a match for this cultivator in front of him. With the strength of this cultivator in front of him, even among the Grand Essence's 12 sacred children, he would rank in the top 3. In fact, none of the Grand Essence's 12 sacred children could be his opponent. The few cultivators who wanted to come forward and join forces to deal with Ning Cheng immediately stopped. Even Hua Erqi's expression changed a few times, but he didn't say anything. Although Chu Baiyi was weaker than him, Ning Cheng didn't want to offend such a powerhouse. At this time, he was almost sure that Ning Cheng was a secret disciple cultivated by a large academy. I'll stick to what I said earlier. Everyone agreed that there are many spirit herb gardens here. Whoever manages to get their hands on them will get to keep them. If anyone dares to disturb me and rob the spiritual herb garden again, I will not stop. Ning Cheng stared at Chu Baiyi and gave a cold snort. He didn't bother with Chu Baiyi and turned around to land in front of a high-grade spiritual medicine garden. He then raised his hand and continuously threw out array flags. Without Chu Baiyi and Hua Erqi stepping forward, the other cultivators naturally wouldn't step forward. Seeing Ning Cheng start to break the array, the rest of the people quickly formed a team and also started to break the array. The only difference was that Ning Cheng used array flags to break through the array, while the rest of the cultivators used violence to break through the array. At the beginning, Ning Cheng still had a few minutes to break through the array, but as time went on, his speed of breaking through the array was getting faster and faster. While the others were teaming up to blast open a herb garden, he had already broken through the defense arrays of 5 herb gardens. Every time Ning Cheng broke open the defensive array of the medicine garden, he would also take out the entire medicine garden. Although everyone was jealous of Ning Cheng's speed, but no one dared to come forward to snatch it. As Ning Cheng broke through the 7th high-grade divine herb garden, all the high-grade divine herb gardens disappeared, leaving only some low-grade divine herb gardens. After an incense stick worth of time, Ning Cheng finally managed to break through all the low and mid-level divine herb gardens, and he alone obtained more than 80% of them. Everyone divided up the divine herb garden, but no one left. Not even Ning Cheng left. The divine grasses here were so lush, and there were even 2 formidable human-faced poison centipedes. Everyone knew that there must be a top-grade god spiritual source here. In fact, after all the medicine gardens were snatched away, traces of rich god spiritual chi fluctuations appeared at the location of the high-grade god grass garden. Spiritual consciousness couldn't penetrate it at all. This should be the source of the growth of the divine grasses. Everyone, let's attack together. Hua Erki said as he pointed to the source of the fluctuation of the divine spiritual energy. He did not say anything about the distribution. With Ning Cheng here, wanting to eat a meal without paying was absolutely impossible. Therefore, everyone brought out their weapons and attacked. Ning Cheng also brought out his long spear. More than a dozen people attacked this place, and in just a few minutes, a loud explosion erupted. The entire ground collapsed, and an endless abyss-like empty world appeared in front of everyone's spiritual consciousness. A strong fishy smell rushed over, and Ning Cheng was the first to discover that something was wrong. There was indeed an extremely rich god spiritual chi below. At the same time, there was also a sleeping human-faced poison centipede. The violent explosion just now had directly woken up this poison centipede. The poison centipede let out a hiss and raised its entire head. The poison centipede hadn't moved yet, but the terrifying aura oppressed everyone, making it difficult for them to breathe. Everyone immediately felt that something was wrong. This poison centipede had only raised its head, but half of its body was already more than 1,000 feet long. One could say that if this poison centipede fully stretched out, it could easily encircle half of the medicinal abyss. An extremely terrifying spatial vortex rushed out, and 4 cultivators, who couldn't retreat in time, got sucked away by this spatial vortex. They didn't even have time to scream before they died. Ning Cheng had already discovered the horror of this poison centipede, and he immediately retreated. Even so, when the spatial vortex swept over, he felt a terrifying suction force. Moreover, this poison centipede had yet to wake up. Once this human-faced poison centipede fully woke up, how terrifying would it be? Ning Cheng crazily wielded the twin wings of the heavenly clouds and escaped far away. Not only Ning Cheng, but everyone here also started to escape in a frenzy. The human-faced poison centipede soon discovered that something was wrong with the situation. Its medicine garden was gone, and even its 2 offspring were gone. A terrifying roar came from behind Ning Cheng, and an even more violent spatial collapse seemed to want to pull Ning Cheng back. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness could only feel the destruction of the world behind him as the human-faced poison centipede's maelstrom crazily swept it away. The 2 cultivators who fled in the back didn't even have the ability to resist before they disappeared into the maelstrom. Ning Cheng flew all the way, and even if he encountered some good divine grasses along the way, he didn't stop. After fleeing for a few days, when he couldn't feel the poison centipede's aura anymore, he finally landed on the ground and breathed a sigh of relief. Since that terrifying poison centipede had awakened, it meant that not many of the dozen people were left. Even if Chu Bai and Hua Erki wanted to escape, they would find it hard to do so. After arriving at this place, Ning Cheng's sense of direction had already become a little fuzzy. He was just about to feel the direction of the teleportation array when 2 pretty figures flashed through his spiritual consciousness. Qianghua! Ning Cheng almost screamed out in shock. He was too familiar with one of the figures, it was Shi Qianghua. Whether it was Shi Qianghua or not, Ning Cheng had already seen that figure, so he had to go and take a look. Ning Cheng was just about to rush over when a familiar fishy smell and a powerful suppressive aura rushed over. Ning Qing didn't even think about it and once again crazily stimulated the twin wings of the heavenly clouds and chose a direction opposite to the two pretty female cultivators. That fishy smell and suppressive aura belonged to the terrifying poison centipede that had been slumbering in the past. Ning Qing didn't expect that this poison centipede would still catch up to him after fleeing for a few days. From this, he could tell that this poison centipede had left a mark on him. Since this poison centipede had chased him to this place, then the rest of the people probably had already met their end. Maybe he was the last survivor. This time, the poison centipede had completely sobered up and was no longer in a daze like before. Ning Qing could only feel the powerful spatial vortex constantly sucking him in. At the same time, the terrifying suppressive aura of death was also getting closer and closer, while the fishy smell was also getting heavier. Ning Cheng's heart sank to the bottom. If it continued like this, it wouldn't take long before the human-faced poison centipede's domain's imposing aura would suppress him. Then, the spatial vortex would suck him into the poison centipede's belly. At this moment, Ning Qing felt some regret in his heart. He should have brought out the starry sky wheel. With the starry sky wheel, he could have slowly searched for the imprint on his body. Ning Qing escaped as fast as he could, and many cultivators saw a 10,000-foot-long human-faced poison centipede chasing after Ning Qing. No one dared to stand in front of the poison centipede at this time. As the poison centipede chased after some of the cultivators who couldn't escape in time, the poison centipede directly sucked them into its mouth. However, the poison centipede's main target was Ning Qing. As long as the other cultivators escaped to a certain range, the poison centipede would no longer care about them. All the cultivators that the poison centipede passed by, looked at Ning Qing fleeing in front of them and the poison centipede chasing after him in shock. Who the hell was this person? What did he do to anger the heavens? How did he provoke such a terrifying spirit beast? Feeling the human-faced poison centipede getting closer and closer, Ning Qing knew that if he didn't find a way, this day next year would be his death anniversary. Spiritual consciousness chop, dark consciousness storm, time wheel, sunset's twilight, none to depend on. Ning Qing ran through all the spirit techniques he knew and found that none of them could stop this human-faced poison centipede from chasing after him. It wasn't that his spirit techniques weren't good enough, but his strength wasn't good enough. Maybe the 5-colored star splitter arrow could stop it for a moment or two. But if he really brought out the 5-colored star splitter arrow, he would truly die. The strength of this human-faced poison centipede definitely couldn't be locked down by the 5-colored star splitter arrow's murderous aura. Just like other spirit techniques, it wasn't that the 5-colored star splitter arrow couldn't stop it, but that his strength wasn't good enough. If he were a Dao sculpting cultivator, he could have killed this poison centipede with a single arrow. Unfortunately, he wasn't a Dao sculpting cultivator. The huge gap in strength couldn't be made up for with any means. The fact that the 5-colored star splitter arrow could stop this poison centipede for a moment or two referred to the situation after the arrow was shot, not the situation before it was shot. The powerful suction from the spatial vortex had already affected Ning Cheng's speed. Ning Qing didn't dare to think about it anymore. He turned around and stopped. Burning his essence blood, he grabbed the 7 Bridges Realm book and swung it with both hands. 7 Bridges Spirit Technique, the first bridge of coping. A cold and gloomy aura gushed out from the realm book, and a huge stone steel blocked the suction force of the spatial vortex. Then, the words first bridge of coping slowly appeared on the huge stone steel, and a faint pale white stone arch bridge slowly emerged behind the stone steel. The billowing blood river churned under the bridge, and Ning Qing could clearly see the human-faced poison centipede blocked by the first bridge of coping. Rather than blocking it, the human-faced poison centipede took the initiative to stop. This poison centipede looked a little afraid of the first bridge of coping, but it didn't care about the increasingly thick yin qi around it. A mournful voice echoed within the chilly wind, no return in life, no retreat in death, once entered, never to return. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness and celestial essence in his sea of consciousness started to leak out like a leaking pot. However, the first bridge of coping and the blood river under it still remained blurry. Ning Cheng's heart turned gloomy. He didn't have the strength to fully activate the first bridge of coping. The reason why the first bridge of coping could reach its current state wasn't because of him, but because of the Seven Bridges Realm book. If he held on any longer, he wouldn't have to worry about the human-faced poison centipede's attack. The reason why the human-faced poison centipede stopped in front of the first bridge of coping wasn't that the human-faced poison centipede feared this low-level version of the first bridge of coping, but that it didn't understand the situation. Ning Qing could tell from the first bridge of coping's weak effect on the human-faced poison centipede. Sure enough, the human-faced poison centipede hesitated for a short time before rushing onto the first bridge of coping. The billowing nether wind slowed down the human-faced poison centipede's speed. Ning Qing didn't waste even half a breath and brought out the Starry Sky Wheel. At the same time, he grabbed the Seven Bridges Realm book and drove the Starry Sky Wheel to escape again. Chapter 884. As soon as Ning Qing left, the already vague first bridge of coping turned even more blurry. As the human-faced poison centipede rushed over, there was only a slight shattering sound before the first bridge of coping disappeared without a trace. Looking at the human-faced poison centipede chasing after him once again, Ning Qing felt relieved. Bringing out the first bridge of coping, even with the help of the Seven Bridges Realm book, consumed an unimaginable amount of energy. Fortunately, he no longer needed to consume celestial essence and spiritual consciousness to escape. Chasing Bull only needed to control the Starry Sky Wheel and burn a lot of spirit crystals. After handing over the Starry Sky Wheel to Chasing Bull to control, Ning Qing carefully observed the human-faced poison centipede chasing after them. After half a day, Ning Qing finally felt relieved. Although the human-faced poison centipede was fast, the Starry Sky Wheel wasn't any slower than the human-faced poison centipede. This made Ning Qing feel relieved. As long as the human-faced poison centipede couldn't catch up to the Starry Sky Wheel, the Starry Sky Wheel would eventually lose the human-faced poison centipede. Returning to the cabin, Ning Qing remembered the figure that he had seen before the human-faced poison centipede chased after him. That figure was too similar to Shi Qianghua, it was almost the same. But now that Ning Qing thought about it, he felt that it should not be Qianghua. What was Qianghua's cultivation when she and Luofei separated? In such a short time, Qianghua shouldn't be able to become an eternal cultivator and enter the Grand Essence Mystic Realm. Even if he used divine crystals to cultivate, it would be impossible for his cultivation to improve so quickly. Whether it was or not, he had to find this female cultivator and see for himself. Putting these things aside for the time being, Ning Qing no longer paid any attention to the human-faced poison centipede chasing after him. Taking off all his clothes, he used his spiritual consciousness to constantly search his body. 2 hours later, Ning Qing had to burn all the clothes on his body. He couldn't find any other marks at all, so he could only burn his clothes and continue running. It seemed that the human-faced poison centipede would not stop until it killed Ning Qing. Even after chasing him for a full month, it still did not stop. Just as Ning Qing expected, after a month, the human-faced poison centipede started to fall behind the Starry Sky Wheel. Within a month, Ning Qing had already restored his cultivation. Unfortunately, even if he recovered his cultivation, with the human-faced poison centipede chasing after him, he wouldn't be able to find the divine herbs. Master, this fellow must have gone mad. I've already burned 500,000 god crystals, but he's still chasing me. That idiot, doesn't it know that it can't catch up? Seeing Ning Qing coming over, Chasing Bull spoke up in anger. It could see from the astrolabe of the Starry Sky Wheel that the human-faced poison centipede was still behind. Ning Qing smiled and took out a bunch of arrayed discs before handing them to Chasing Bull. In a while, let me control the Starry Sky Wheel. You just need to keep throwing these arrayed discs behind you. Ning Qing had given Chasing Bull all the obstructing arrayed discs he had refined. Although none of these arrayed discs could stop the human-faced poison centipede for even a breath, the real purpose of these arrayed discs was not to block it, but to prevent the human-faced poison centipede from chasing after Ning Qing. As Chasing Bull threw out one arrayed disc after another, the human-faced poison centipede's speed slowed down. This was not because of the arrayed discs, but because there were too many arrayed discs along the way, the human-faced poison centipede's speed could not be maximized. Moreover, under Ning Qing's control, the Starry Sky Wheel's speed rose by a large margin. Under such circumstances, Ning Qing quickly threw away the human-faced poison centipede. A day later, Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness no longer had any trace of the human-faced poison centipede's aura. To prevent the human-faced poison centipede from chasing after him, Ning Qing continued to control the starry sky wheel for half a month before stopping in the depths of a stone forest. The reason why he stopped here was that Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness seemed to have become mesmerized by this place. Ning Qing also felt the vastness of the Grand Essence mystic realm. He controlled the starry sky wheel to fly for a month or two but didn't find himself going in circles. Putting away the starry sky wheel, Ning Qing landed in the middle of the stone forest. This stone forest looked very strange, with steep stone peaks of different heights. The tallest ones were hundreds or even thousands of feet high, while the shortest ones were only a few centimeters high. Standing in the middle of the stone forest, Ning Qing felt like he had come to a bamboo forest full of bamboo shoots. Tall and short bamboo shoots sprouted everywhere. There was nothing else in this stone forest except for the stone peaks. Ning Qing didn't even see a single blade of grass. It stood to reason that this place should have very sparse spiritual qi. However, Ning Qing could feel the rich spiritual qi in this place, which made it an extremely suitable place for cultivation. Ning Qing moved quickly because there wasn't a single divine grass in this place. In the Grand Essence mystic realm, a place with such rich spiritual qi, no one would believe it if they didn't have any divine grasses. Ning Qing stretched out his spiritual consciousness and carefully searched around but couldn't find even a single divine grass. Soon, Ning Qing felt a cold yin aura in addition to the rich spiritual qi in this place. Because he cultivated the Seven Bridges spirit technique, Ning Qing wasn't a stranger to the cold yin aura. However, he didn't like this aura and didn't want to stay here. Just as he was about to leave this place, Ning Qing found something wrong. He couldn't get out. His spiritual consciousness couldn't sweep through this stone forest, which meant that there was no direction in this place. Ning Qing calmed down and activated the twin wings of the heavenly clouds. Soon, he landed again. The forbidden flight restriction in this stone forest was even stronger than the one in the Grand Essence Ruins public square. Therefore, he couldn't fly to a higher place. Moreover, flying through the stone forest still gave him no direction. Ning Qing finally understood that this place was a natural maze. He could enter the natural maze, but he couldn't get out. Ning Qing didn't panic even though he was in the maze. He was a spirit array master to begin with. Therefore, even if he didn't have any array patterns, he should still be able to get out of this maze. Unfortunately, he didn't lead that stupid poisonous centipede here. Otherwise, that poisonous centipede would have been trapped by this maze and couldn't escape. 5 days later, Ning Qing stopped running around like a headless fly. His knowledge of the Tao of arrays couldn't be used in this place. Even after 5 days, he couldn't even touch the edges of this maze. The only thing he could guess was that this array was a natural maze. Kacha, another pile of human bones, was trampled under Ning Cheng's feet. Over the past few days, he had stepped on bones more than once or twice in this stone forest. Under normal circumstances, whenever he stepped on a skeleton, he would first check if there were any rings on the skeleton. If there were any rings, he would collect them and then continue looking for the array entrance. After a few days, he managed to pick up 2 rings. But this time, the skeleton he stepped on made Ning Qing stop. The skeleton he stepped on was a male cultivator. The robes worn by the skeleton looked gorgeous and exquisite. Moreover, they were still intact. Not even a speck of dust could stick to them. From this, one could tell that this set of robes was also a top-grade weapon. What made Ning Qing surprised was not the clothes, but the bones of this person. The skeleton on the ground exuded a faint golden glow. There was even a faint Tao charm circulating around it. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness carefully swept through the skeleton once more, confirming that this cultivator had truly fallen. A moment later, Ning Cheng's gaze fell on the ring on the cultivator's hand. Even Ning Cheng had never seen such an exquisite ring. But the bone on the finger gave off a faint blue gem-like glow. It looked like a star in the blue sky. Ning Cheng bent down and wanted to take off the ring. Just when his hand was about to touch the ring, a faint voice arrived, "I'm not dead yet, and you want to snatch my things?" Ning Cheng was startled. He quickly stepped back and opened his hand. The long spear fell into his palm. "You don't have to worry. I'm not a threat to you. My essence spirit is extremely weak. I used a secret method to fake my essence spirit's death. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have woken up." The skeleton's faint voice came out again. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness swept out and felt a trace of essence spirit fluctuations. A cultivator who hadn't fallen yet was lying here. Ning Cheng felt embarrassed to pick up someone else's ring. Even if this cultivator knew that he wanted to pick up the ring, this cultivator couldn't resist. He couldn't do such a thing. Seeing that Ning Cheng didn't take the next step, the skeleton seemed to feel slightly relieved and said, "Let's talk about it, okay? If you save me, I'll tell you the way out. Of course, I don't know if you can get out or not. I don't want you to say that I lied to you." Feeling that this skeleton spoke the truth, Ning Cheng immediately felt a favorable impression in his heart. If this skeleton said that he had a way to get out, then let him save him first. Then, he would use another method to restrain each other. Seeing Ning Cheng not speaking, the skeleton thought that Ning Cheng wanted his ring. Therefore, he didn't want it and continued, "After entering the Grand Essence Lost Stone Forest, the chance of survival is very small. Since you can come here, it should be because the Grand Essence Mystic Realm opened again, right? You can say that no one here knows how to get out of the Grand Essence Lost Stone Forest except for me. If you want my ring, I can give it to you. In fact, I don't have many good things in my ring." Ning Cheng had to admit that the skeleton was right. He asked in doubt, "Did you come in the last time the Grand Essence Mystic Realm opened?" "Last time." The skeleton repeated the words and quieted down. After a few minutes, he sighed and said, "I've been sleeping here for 60,000 years. 60,000 years ago, I escaped to this place with serious injuries. I wandered around here for tens of thousands of years and found many rings. That's how I came to know about this place. It's just that although the spiritual chi here is rich, I can't absorb it for cultivation. You can see that there are no divine grasses around, and you can understand what's going on." When Ning Cheng heard this, he immediately tried to absorb a trace of the spiritual chi. But then he stopped. Not being able to absorb the spiritual chi wasn't targeted at him. He could absorb the spiritual chi here and turn it into his own cultivation. Most likely, it was caused by the mysterious yellow formless cultivation method, but Ning Cheng didn't say it out loud. The skeleton continued, "After I consumed all my resources, I could only use a secret method to fake my death. If no one touches me, I might never wake up." Ning Cheng took out 2 Bodhi Cauldron Heaven buds and a pile of spirit crystals and threw them to the skeleton. "I don't have any medicinal pills. But here are 2 high-grade divine grasses that can help you recover your corporeal body." This skeleton had only lost his muscles and had a weak essence spirit. Moreover, his corporeal body wasn't destroyed because he still had his bones. The Bodhi Cauldron Heaven buds were high-grade divine grasses that specialized in restoring corporeal bodies. Moreover, with a pile of spirit crystals, Ning Cheng believed that he could recover quickly. The skeleton grabbed the 2 divine grasses and the pile of spirit crystals in a daze. He didn't know what to do. He had never seen a person like Ning Cheng. Without even discussing the conditions, Ning Cheng took out high-grade divine grasses to help him recover his corporeal body. He knew about the preciousness of the Bodhi Cauldron Heaven buds. It was no less valuable than an ordinary Dao fruit. Even in the Grand Essence Mystic Realm, it was rare. Chapter 885. Ning Cheng understood that this skeleton was shocked. Before entering the Grand Essence Mystic Realm, not to mention 2 Bodhi Cauldron Heaven buds, even a single Bodhi Cauldron Heaven bud leaf would have been an unattainable treasure for him. Previously, he had found more than 100 Bodhi Cauldron Heaven buds in the divine herb garden guarded by the human-faced poison centipede. This skeleton's bones emitted a golden glow. Clearly, like him, it was a top-notch body refinement expert. A single Bodhi cauldron heaven sprout might not be able to perfectly restore a top-notch body tempering expert's flesh and blood. Moreover, Ning Qing felt that this person was not a cunning person and would never go back on his word after restoring his corporeal body. Ning Qing was a bit more generous, and took out 2 of them at once. He wanted to ask this skeleton for a favor. Ning Qing hadn't been trapped in the Grand Essence Lost Stone Forest for a day or 2. Therefore, he naturally knew about the horrors of this place. Even if he could cultivate here for 600,000 years, it wouldn't matter. He didn't want to waste this time. This skeleton had lived here for tens of thousands of years, so it should be true that it had a way to get out. Secondly, he didn't have a body-forging cultivation method after reaching the starry sky body. Therefore, he wanted to consult this skeleton in front of him. The skeleton began to use the things that Ning Qing had given it to restore its essence, blood and flesh. Ning Qing did not continue to search around in vain, but rather waited on the side. A few days later, Ning Qing saw the skeletal male cultivator come out of his temporary immortal cave. He also put away his immortal cave and came out. At this moment, the skeletal male cultivator's body already had flesh and blood on it. Although he looked very thin and weak, to the point that he could be described as a bag of bones, he was no longer just a skeleton like before. Although Qi Shixingsing's aura was a little weak, Ning Qing could tell that once he recovered, he would also become a powerhouse. Many thanks for this friend's sincere help. My name is Qi Shixingsing, and I used to be an inner sect disciple of the profound Moon Spirit Gate. The male cultivator bowed to Ning Qing as soon as he came up, his eyes filled with the joy of escaping from death. Ning Qing had heard of the profound Moon Spirit Gate, one of the top 10 sects in the Grand Essence domain. But this Qi Shixingsing's name sounded a bit weird. Ning Qing had seen a lot of strange things, as such he did not care about the name. Although he was slightly surprised, he still cupped his fists and spoke, "My name is Ning Qing, I was able to save Brother Qi by chance. After Brother Qi recovers, I'll still need to rely on Brother Qi's help." Ning Qing did not conceal it this time, and spoke out his real name. Qi Shixingsing saw Ning Qing's doubts and spoke with a smile, "When I was born, I had 13 starlights on my forehead. When I opened my eyes, these 13 stars entered my body, and my father gave me this name. Brother Ning, did you come to the Grand Essence Lost Stone Forest specifically? Making a special trip here?" Ning Qing waved his hand and spoke, "No, I was chased by a human-faced poison centipede and fled here." Qi Shixingsing looked at Ning Qing in shock. "Did you find Pil Sage Min Kong's medicine garden?" Pil Sage Min Kong's medicine garden is guarded by a human-faced poison centipede. That human-faced poison centipede's cultivation has long since surpassed Dao sculpting experts. How did you escape? Without waiting for Ning Qing to answer, Qi Shixingsing's eyes lit up. "No wonder you can take out 2 Bodhi Cauldron Heaven buds. It turns out you found Pil Sage Min Kong's medicine garden." Pil Sage Min Kong's medicine garden? Ning Qing asked in doubt. Qi Shixingsing nodded, "Yes, if it's guarded by a human-faced poison centipede, then it must be Pil Sage Min Kong's medicine garden. Pil Sage Min Kong is a top-grade Dao Essence Pil Sage. He had a transcendent status in the Grand Essence realm, and no one disrespected him. It's just that the growth of the divine grasses in the Grand Essence realm is slow, and it has become increasingly insufficient for his alchemy needs. Moreover, the Grand Essence mystic realm is very suitable for the growth of divine grasses. Pil Sage Min Kong destroyed his own cultivation and entered the Grand Essence mystic realm with his companion beast, human-faced poison centipede. I heard that he wanted to cultivate divine grasses for alchemy. But after he entered the Grand Essence mystic realm, there was no news of him. Brother Ning, since you said that you met a human-faced poison centipede, then it must be Pil Sage Min Kong's medicine garden." Ning Qing couldn't help but sigh in his heart. There really were all kinds of people in this world. There was actually someone like Pil Sage Min Kong who destroyed his own cultivation just to come in and cultivate divine grasses. If it were him, he would never do such a thing. From the looks of it, those 2 poison centipedes should be the descendants of the poison centipede that chased after him. Ning Qing guessed that even Qi Shixingsing didn't know about it. Seeing Ning Chang's speechless look, Qi Shixingsing spoke up. Some people say that Pil Sage Min Kong wanted to open up the third step of Tao, confirming from the Tao of alchemy. But maybe he failed. Hearing this, Ning Chang's spirit perked up and he quickly asked, Brother Qi, is there really a third step in Tao confirming? Qi Shixingsing looked at Ning Chang in doubt and asked, Brother Ning, with your ability, you should be a disciple of a big sect, right? Didn't your master teach you anything in this regard? Ning Chang had only reported his name before and didn't mention his sect. Qi Shixingsing thought that Ning Chang didn't want to say it, so he didn't ask. He never thought that Ning Chang, a cultivator who could escape the pursuit of the human-faced poison centipede, was a rogue cultivator. Ning Chang smiled, I'm a rogue cultivator, so no one taught me this kind of thing. Qi Shixingsing froze for a moment, then sighed and said, no wonder. The third step of Tao confirming definitely exists. But since the Grand Essence Realm's laws shattered, no one can take the third step. So I can only tell you about the existence of the third step. If you want to take the third step, you must go to the Grand Change Realm or have a world with a complete set of laws like the Grand Change Realm. I heard that the strongest cultivation in the Grand Essence Realm is Tao unification. How powerful is Tao unification? Ning Chang finally found someone to ask about these things. Naturally, he wanted to ask all the questions he had. Tao unification? Qi Shixingsing sighed and said, in fact, some Tao unification isn't as powerful as you think. There are thousands of paths to Tao unification. Although there are thousands of paths to Tao unification, there aren't many cultivators in the Grand Essence Realm who can take the most powerful path to Tao unification. I'd like to hear the details. Ning Chang had already forgotten that he should go out at this time. Instead, he took out a stone stool and placed it next to Qi Shixingsing. Then, he took out another stone stool and sat down. Qi Shixingsing understood the difficulties of being a rogue cultivator. Therefore, it was normal for Ning Chang to not know about these things. After sitting down, he said, Brother Ning, let me explain it to you briefly. If we can get out of the Lost Stone Forest this time, I would like to invite you to my Profound Moon Spirit Gate Spirit Scroll Pavilion to read the ancient scrolls. This promise was a huge favor to Ning Chang. The most important place in a sect was the Spirit Scroll Pavilion. For Qi Shixingsing to make such a promise, on the one hand, it meant that his status wasn't ordinary. On the other hand, it showed that he truly felt grateful to Ning Chang. Stopping Ning Chang from expressing his gratitude, Qi Shixingsing continued, I said that Tao unification isn't necessarily as powerful as you think. It's not that Tao unification isn't powerful, but that there are too many paths to Tao unification. Our most common paths to Tao unification include body to world Tao, body to artifact Tao, body to false Tao and so on. My father told me that these Tao unification cultivators aren't the strongest Tao unification cultivators. Seeing that Ning Chang wanted to ask, Qi Shixingsing waved his hand, Brother Ning, you don't have to ask me. I don't know anything about the strongest Tao unification, and neither does my father. I can only tell you about the most common Tao unification methods in the Grand Essence Realm. Body to world Tao is the most common method, and it's also the most powerful method after reaching Tao unification. This is body to Tao, coexisting with the boundary. Anyone in the boundary where one reaches Tao unification is just an ant. However, leaving the Tao unification realm isn't impossible, but it's extremely difficult. Body to artifact Tao is something only those with top-grade innate treasures can do. This kind of powerhouse fuses their Tao sense with innate treasures and uses the power of innate treasures to reach the peak of Tao seeking. Compared to body to world Tao, this kind of powerhouse can go anywhere and has more freedom. However, they need to cut off their emotions and fuse their Tao sense with innate treasures. Ning Chang sighed and said, what's the difference between this and an artifact spirit? Qi Shixingsing smiled, it's completely different from an artifact spirit. Tao unification cultivators only use innate treasures to endow their Tao sense, not an artifact spirit. As for body to false Tao, my father said that it doesn't belong to Tao unification at all. Instead, some powerhouses use a method to approach Tao unification. It's equivalent to a half-step Tao unification Holy Emperor, Although it's stronger than primordial chaos, it can't compare to a true Dao unification powerhouse. Ning Qing shook his head. None of these three methods of Dao unification were what he wanted. Qi Shixingsing saw Ning Qing shaking his head and said with a smile, "We're still 108,000 miles away from Dao unification. Don't think too much about it." Ning Qing put these things aside and asked, "Brother Qi, you asked me if I came here specifically for this. Is there someone else who came here specifically for this purpose?" Qi Shixingsing sighed and said, "I came here specifically for this purpose." A cultivator's strength, how far this cultivator can go after reaching Dao confirming, and even whether they can reach Dao confirming, in addition to the understanding of Dao and spirit essence conversion, the most important factor is the strength of one's sea of consciousness and the condensing of one's spiritual consciousness. Ning Qing agreed with this point. "Yes, I agree with Brother Qi's words." Ning Qing could surpass others in the same realm, not only because of his powerful cultivation method and condensed celestial essence, but also because of his powerful sea of consciousness. Moreover, the stronger one's sea of consciousness, the more powerful one's insight into Tao laws and spirit techniques. Many powerful sects know that the Grand Essence Lost Stone Forest has a method to condense one's spiritual consciousness and strengthen one's sea of consciousness. However, no one knows what it is. Over the years, I don't know how many people have entered the Grand Essence Lost Stone Forest, but no one could come out. Even if someone found a way out, they could only fall in this place. At this point, Qi Shixingsing sighed again, feeling a little sad. Although Ning Qing had saved him, he still didn't know if he could get out. Is there a way to condense one's spiritual consciousness here? Why haven't I heard of it? Ning Qing asked in surprise. Qi Shixingsing gave an N sound. The Grand Essence Lost Stone Forest was originally called the Grand Essence Lost Forest. It means that anyone who enters this place will get lost and eventually die. However, few people who know about this place are willing to come here. Moreover, this place is very far from the teleportation array. Even if an eternal cultivator flies fast, it would take them 3 or 4 months to come here. Moreover, it would also take them 3 or 4 months to go back. Therefore, most cultivators don't have the time to come here. Similarly, not many rogue cultivators know about this place. Chapter 886. Ning Qing nodded. Qi Shixingsing's words were true. Not everyone had a starry sky wheel. Ning Qing had used the starry sky wheel to fly for 2 months. If it were any other flight-type weapon, it wouldn't be surprising for him to reach this place in 3 or 4 months. I'm at the full circle of the eternal realm and about to enter the Tao sculpting realm. I didn't come to the Grand Essence mystic realm to participate in the Grand Essence Great Meet. I came here to find a way to condense my spiritual consciousness and expand my sea of consciousness. But no matter how well prepared I was, I almost died in the Grand Essence Lost Stone Forest. If I weren't a body-forging cultivator, maybe I wouldn't have survived until today. Ning Qing interjected in doubt, Brother Qi, you can't get out of this place. At most, you can't cultivate. As long as you have some spirit crystals or medicinal pills, you shouldn't die, right? Qi Shixingsing shook his head. You'll understand what's going on after staying here for a few months. Even if your sea of consciousness grew stronger, you would still fall into hallucinations after a month. You would always feel weak, and you would constantly take out all kinds of cultivation resources to arrange spiritual gathering arrays to absorb them for cultivation. But you wouldn't be able to cultivate for a long time. At most, in half a day, you would throw everything away and run to another place. Along the way, you might even fight against monsters condensed from non-existent yin qi. Moreover, you can't absorb the spiritual qi in this place. You might even throw out spirit crystals to arrange spiritual gathering arrays during the fight. Ning Qing frowned. If what Qi Shixingsing said was true, then no one could survive in this place for a long time. Qi Shixingsing sighed, I've struggled in this place for tens of thousands of years and can barely resist some of the illusions. But you have to be careful. After a while, you will definitely be affected. Therefore, we have to leave this place before you get affected. How do we leave? Ning Qing took in a deep breath. he didn't think that Qi Shixingsing was lying to him. Qi Shixingsing's expression also turned solemn. He said in a deep voice, "During the tens of thousands of years I wandered in the lost stone forest, I found a jade strip on one of the fallen cultivators. The jade strip said that this lost stone forest contained divine chalcedony, which can be refined into spirit essence pills by adding some divine grasses. The spirit essence pill was a pill that could increase one's divine sense and expand one's sea of wisdom. Not only could this pill expand one's sea of wisdom, it could also prevent cultivators from getting lost in the lost stone forest. The most frightening thing in the lost stone forest is getting lost. Once we don't get lost, we will eventually be able to find a way out with our strength." "Then how did you wander around for tens of thousands of years?" Ning Qing asked in a deep voice. The dry skin on Qi Shixingsing's face twitched a few times before he slowly said, "That's not a life for humans. Every month, I would fall into madness. Then, in my madness, I used up all my strength and consciousness, and finally fainted. Again and again, as if there was no end to it. My strong body allowed me to survive this terrible torture. And when I woke up, all my previous deductions about the way out of the lost stone forest would be blurred, and then I would start again. In the end, I knew there was no point in going on. I no longer tried to deduce the way out. Instead, I repeatedly memorized the important information, such as the divine chalcedony, the spirit essence pill, and the hallucination. Why don't you use a jade strip to carve these things down? Just like the jade strip you used to get the news about the spirit essence pill?" Ning Qing asked in doubt. Qi Shixingsing shook his head, "Try carving a jade strip, and you'll know why." Ning Qing immediately took out a jade strip and engraved Qi Shixingsing's words on it. But soon, he found something wrong. The things he engraved at the beginning had disappeared. He couldn't even engrave jade strips in this place. "I suspect that the jade strip I obtained was brought in by that cultivator from the outside. Moreover, that cultivator was an alchemist. He should have come in to look for divine chalcedony. But I guess he couldn't find it and ended up dying in the lost stone forest." Qi Shixingsing didn't care about Ning Cheng's words and put away the jade strip. He already knew that Ning Cheng couldn't engrave anything in this place. Grand Essence Lost Stone Forest, Divine Chalcedony, Spirit Essence Pill, Pill Sage Min Kong, Spiritual Medicine Garden. These irrelevant things appeared in Ning Cheng's mind for no reason. He suddenly thought of Pill Sage Min Kong. Did he destroy his cultivation to recondense his spiritual consciousness and open a new sea of consciousness? If that was the case, did Pill Sage Min Kong also die in the Grand Essence Lost Stone Forest? Qi Shixingsing didn't know that Ning Cheng's thoughts had changed so quickly. He spoke out his thoughts, "None of us are pill deities, and we don't have pill recipes. But I have a way. That is, we can go all out to find divine chalcedony. I don't need divine chalcedony to have any effect before we start refining pills. As long as divine chalcedony can keep us from getting lost in this place, we can find a way to get out." Ning Qing wanted to say that he was a Tao sculpting pill deity. But thinking about the spirit essence pill, he guessed that a newly advanced Tao sculpting pill like him wouldn't be able to refine it. Not to mention, he didn't even have a pill recipe. What if we still can't find divine chalcedony after getting lost? Ning Qing asked. Qi Shixingsing sighed again, "Then we have to wait until we wake up and start again. Maybe in the end, you'll end up like me, turning into a skeleton and waiting for the people behind to save you. Because every time you wake up, you'll feel like you've been gnawed on by countless things. Not only would you lose a lot of weight, but the yin qi in your sea of consciousness would also increase a lot. After you wake up, the first thing you need to do is to expel the yin qi." Ning Qing brought out a long spear and pointed it at a huge stone peak in front of him. "I'll flatten all the stone peaks around us first. That way, I can broaden my horizons." "Don't do that." Before Ning Qing could finish, Qi Shixingsing stopped Ning Qing. "These stone peaks don't have divine chalcedony. Moreover, once you do that, you'll immediately get lost. You won't even wait for the stone peaks to completely shatter. Do you have a better way?" And how do you know that these stone peaks don't have divine chalcedony? Ning Cheng looked at Qi Shixingsing and asked. Qi Shixingsing shook his head. In the beginning, I used a secret technique to break through a few small stone peaks. But I found no divine chalcedony in them. Moreover, if I attack the stone peaks, I'll fall into a stronger illusion and lose myself for a longer time. My method is the same as before, to slowly search for divine chalcedony inside. As he spoke, Qi Shixingsing felt a little lacking in confidence. He had been searching for tens of thousands of years. Not to mention divine chalcedony, he couldn't even find a drop of water. When Ning Cheng saw Qi Shixingsing's expression, he understood that he didn't have the confidence. Besides, Ning Cheng had been wandering around this place for a few days and knew that it didn't make any sense to continue like this. Sooner or later, he would have to break through these stone peaks. Therefore, he might as well attack while he was still energetic. Brother Qi, I have to give it a try. Please let me go first. If I don't try these stone peaks, I won't be able to calm down and slowly search for divine chalcedony. Qi Shixingsing, on seeing Ning Cheng's firm tone, knew that he couldn't stop Ning Cheng. Therefore, he said, wait a minute. I'll make myself faint first. Then you can start, lest you treat me as an opponent. After saying that, he ran back to his previous cave and lay down. Then, he sealed off all his senses in an instant. It was almost the same as fainting. Ning Cheng didn't care about Qi Shixingsing. He took a deep breath, brought out a long spear, and aimed at one of the stone peaks hundreds of feet high. As his celestial essence surged, the surrounding space gave off a buzzing sound. Seeing a force tearing through the surrounding space and about to fall on the stone peak, Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness suddenly paused. Even his sea of consciousness had a shadow cast over it. It felt as if something had resonated with his sea of consciousness, affecting his sea of consciousness. An inexhaustible amount of yin qi suddenly rolled up from the ground, forming one monstrous beast after another that rushed towards Ning Cheng. A powerful suppressive force came over, and Ning Cheng's celestial essence power suddenly weakened. It felt as if it had turned into a blade of grass caressing the stone peak. Because of Qi Shixingsing's reminder, Ning Cheng had already prepared himself. Therefore, when the endless yin qi swept up from the ground and turned into yin qi demonic beasts, Ning Cheng treated it as an illusion. Ning Cheng firmly guarded his sea of consciousness and even actively let the mysterious yellow origin aura scour his sea of consciousness, fearing that he would fall into an illusion. But to Ning Cheng's horror, no matter how much the mysterious yellow origin aura scoured his sea of consciousness still grew dimmer and dimmer. At the same time, the attacks from the yin demons grew stronger and stronger. If not for his sea of consciousness being so powerful, he might have already fallen into a frenzied counterattack. This feeling made him want to bring out all kinds of spirit techniques to destroy these yin demons. However, he didn't feel the illusion of arranging a spiritual gathering array like Qi Shixingsing had said. Most likely, it was because he could absorb the spirit qi in this place and his starry sky sea of consciousness. Ning Cheng shot out one time will after another. This illusion felt too real, so real that Ning Cheng didn't dare to stop his counterattack. The yin demons seemed endless. Even if the time wheels killed them, the yin demons would still keep coming in. Ning Cheng's sea of consciousness grew more and more sluggish, and his sea of consciousness turned even dimmer. It felt as if many foreign enemies had invaded his sea of consciousness. Not only that, but his celestial essence was also on the verge of exhaustion. No, Ning Cheng suddenly reacted. This wasn't all an illusion. Although it was an illusion, these yin demons were definitely real. Not to mention that he had been using the mysterious yellow origin aura to scour his sea of consciousness, he could already feel the cold yin aura as soon as he entered this place. Ning Cheng finally understood how those bones came to be. Once a cultivator suffered a joint attack from an illusion and reality, they would eventually fall into a coma. At that time, these yin demons would then devour the flesh and blood of the unconscious cultivator. Because Qi Shixingsing was a body-forging cultivator, these yin demons couldn't easily devour his flesh and blood, which allowed him to persist for so many years. Therefore, when the yin demons attacked, his sea of consciousness would feel a resonance, which meant that it was indeed an illusion. However, Ning Qing felt even more sure that these Yin demons weren't illusions. After thinking about this, Ning Qing raised his hand and grabbed the Seven Bridges Realm book. At the same time, he brought out the Seven Bridges Realm book and activated the first spirit technique, the Bridge of Coping. The blurry stone steel of the first bridge appeared once again, and a pale white stone arch bridge, which was much more blurry than the one he used to deal with the human-faced poison centipede, slowly emerged. This time, Ning Qing didn't burn his essence blood. Although these Yin demons had a lot of them, their strength couldn't compare to the human-faced poison centipede. As soon as the first bridge of coping came out, the Yin wind howled, and the blurry blood river surged. The Yin demons formed from Yin Qi, like moths in the face of a flame, frantically rushed towards the first bridge of coping. A faint voice once again emerged from the first bridge of coping: no return in life, no retreat in death. Once you enter the bridge of coping, you will never return. No hope, no reincarnation, only the blood river to wash away your sins. As this voice emerged, the Yin demons formed from Yin Qi rushed up even more crazily. At this time, Ning Qing didn't even need to stimulate his celestial essence and spiritual consciousness. The first bridge of coping automatically became clear. The more Yin demon auras rushed into it, the clearer the first bridge of coping became. Looking at the countless Yin demons in front of him, knowing that they would die if they rushed in, Ning Qing muttered to himself, so the Seven Bridges spirit technique is condensed in this way. Chapter 887. Ning Qing looked at the first bridge with joy as it grew clearer and clearer. At the same time, he fantasized about the second bridge, the third bridge. If all 5 bridges solidified, even if he met that poison centipede again, he could easily escape. But a fantasy was a fantasy after all. At the critical moment when the first bridge solidified, the endless Yin demons disappeared without a trace, and the solidification of the first bridge stopped. The surrounding illusions disappeared, and the Yin Qi also dissipated. The stone forest remained the stone forest, and Qi Shizingsing was still unconscious in the cave in the distance. Ning Qing frowned slightly. If there were no Yin demons formed from the Yin Qi, it meant that his first bridge of coping couldn't truly solidify. Although Ning Qing felt somewhat unwilling, he didn't put away the first bridge of coping. Instead, he still aimed his long spear at the previous stone peak. It contained the same violent celestial essence and the same violent power. The only difference was that when the long spear struck the stone peak, no illusions appeared, and no Yin Qi blocked it. Boom! With a loud noise, Ning Cheng's spear blasted the stone peak into pieces. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness swept through the fragments of the stone peak that he had smashed apart, but other than the gravel, there was nothing else. Not to mention divine chalcedony, he couldn't even find a trace of spirit qi. Putting away the Seven Bridges Realm book, Ning Qing walked to a 1,000-foot-high stone peak and shot out another spear. Sure enough, the Yin Qi suddenly rolled up again, and Ning Cheng's long spear suddenly stopped. This time, Ning Cheng was prepared. Before his sea of consciousness could be affected, he brought out the first bridge of coping. The endless Yin Qi couldn't form any powerful Yin demons at all. Instead, the first bridge of coping absorbed the Yin demons as soon as they formed. This time, it wasn't the Yin demons that rushed to the first bridge of coping. Instead, the first bridge of coping actively absorbed the Yin demons and the surrounding Yin Qi. After absorbing the endless Yin Qi again, the first bridge of coping finally solidified. As the pale white stone bridge spread out, Ning Cheng's thoughts filled with the idea of controlling everything. Ning Qing took in a deep breath and was about to step onto the bridge of coping to see if he could control this spirit technique. Before he could even take a step forward, the surging Yin Qi had already dissipated completely. What's going on? The first bridge of helplessness's absorption time was even shorter than the last time. Not long after it started, the Yin Qi and Yin demons disappeared. Although he didn't understand what was going on, Ning Qing still used his spear to shatter the 1,000-foot-tall stone peak. However, the stone peak still didn't contain any divine chalcedony. Could it be that every Shi Feng only had this little amount of Yin Qi? Ning Qing did not stop, and once again shot out his spear towards a several hundred feet high stone peak. This time, Ning Cheng was even more disappointed. After Ning Cheng smashed apart the several hundred feet high stone peak, not even a trace of yin qi came out. An hour later, Ning Cheng finally understood what was going on. Only when he blasted away the taller stone peak would he be able to unleash a torrent of yin energy. After he destroyed the 1,000 feet tall stone peak, there was no longer any yin qi in the stone peaks below the 1,000 feet tall one. He could only destroy the stone peaks that were taller than that. Even so, the amount of yin qi he could produce was getting smaller and smaller. Ning Cheng's spear strike had already broken through a 3,000 feet tall stone peak, but it did not cause any yin qi to roll out, as such he knew that it would not make any sense for him to continue. This place definitely had a yin qi illusory array arranged by a superpowerful array Dao master. Since there was no yin qi rolling out, it most likely prevented people like him from taking advantage of it. Ning Cheng shook his head and prepared to put away his spear and wake up Qi Shizingsing. Without the illusory array, it wouldn't be difficult for him and Qi Shizingsing to leave the lost stone forest. A hint of fragrance attracted Ning Cheng's attention. His spiritual consciousness swept through the 3,000 feet tall stone peak he had just destroyed and immediately found the source of the fragrance. The thing that gave off the fragrance was a black stone the size of an egg. Ning Cheng took a step forward and picked up the black stone. It felt soft to the touch, just like a soft-shelled egg. An extremely comfortable feeling permeated into his sea of consciousness, causing his spiritual consciousness to cool down a bit. This must be divine chalcedony, Ning Cheng thought as he looked at the soft thing in his palm in surprise. Previously, he had destroyed dozens of mountain peaks, but he didn't find any divine chalcedony. He didn't expect to find divine chalcedony when he thought that it wasn't in the stone peaks. Ning Cheng took out a jade box and carefully put away the spiritual consciousness essence before starting to bombard the stone peaks. Over the next 2 days, Ning Cheng selectively blasted through thousands of stone peaks. Apart from the 3,000 feet tall stone peak, which contained a piece of divine chalcedony, he didn't find any more divine chalcedony in the stone peaks. Among them, he had also blasted through 3,000 feet tall stone peaks, but he still didn't find any divine chalcedony. Ning Cheng shook his head. It seemed that this divine chalcedony wasn't something that could be obtained easily. He decided to check if Qi Shizingsing had woken up and find a way to leave this place together. "Brother Ning, you didn't lose yourself?" Ning Cheng had just turned his head when Qi Shizingsing walked over and looked at Ning Cheng in surprise. But before Ning Cheng could speak, he looked around Ning Cheng in shock. "You've blasted through so many stone peaks. How come you didn't lose yourself?" Ning Cheng didn't bother to answer him. He raised his spear and smashed it down before saying, "Look, no matter how many stone peaks I destroy, it doesn't affect me." He didn't want to reveal the 7 Bridges spirit technique. Although Qi Shizingsing was a good person, he had just met him. Once the 7 Bridges spirit technique was revealed, who knew how many people would covet it? Ning Cheng's words suddenly paused. He saw a small black mass in the middle of the shattered stone peaks. A faint fragrance spread out, and Ning Cheng recognized it at a glance. It was the same thing he had put away before, divine chalcedony. Ignoring Qi Shizingsing, Ning Cheng rushed up and grabbed the piece of divine chalcedony in his hand again. This piece of divine chalcedony was a bit smaller than the previous one. It also had a black mass and looked soft. "Brother Ning, this. Qi Shizingsing also hurriedly walked up to Ning Cheng and pointed at the black soft stone in Ning Cheng's hand. After a long time, he finally managed to squeeze out a sentence, "Is this divine chalcedony?" Ning Cheng smiled and put the piece of divine chalcedony in his hand into Qi Shizingsing's hand. "Congratulations, you got it right. This is divine chalcedony. To tell you the truth, divine chalcedony is in these stone peaks. Some of these stone peaks have it and some don't. I've smashed thousands of stone peaks, but I only got 2. Ning Cheng's words paused again. As he spoke, his spiritual consciousness covered the pile of stone peaks he had smashed. When he looked at the thousands of stone peaks again, he felt something wrong. He was a spirit array master and had a thorough understanding of array formations. As his spiritual consciousness covered the stone peaks he had smashed, he found that the positions of the two stone peaks where he had obtained the divine chalcedony looked very strange. It seemed to be similar to the location of the psychedelic array foundation, but also somewhat different. "Brother Ning, are you okay?" Seeing Ning Cheng in a daze, Qi Shizingsing quickly asked. Ning Cheng waved his hand and said to Qi Shizingsing, "I'm going to stay here and study the array foundation in the Lost Stone Forest. You continue to smash the stone peaks. Once you find the divine chalcedony, put a mark on the spot and tell me." Qi Shizingsing opened his mouth and wanted to persuade Ning Cheng not to do such useless work. He was also proficient in array formations. Yet, he couldn't find the array foundation for tens of thousands of years. Yet, Ning Cheng said that he wanted to study the array foundation here. Qi Shizingsing swallowed the words that were on the tip of his tongue. Previously, he had also tried to persuade Ning Cheng not to attack Shifeng. In fact, Ning Cheng not only blasted away the stone peak, but he also found the divine chalcedony inside the stone peak. From the looks of it, his thoughts might not be entirely correct. "Alright, I'll go look for divine chalcedony. I'll let you know as soon as I find it." Qi Shizingsing reluctantly returned the divine chalcedony in his hand to Ning Cheng and then brought out his weapon in high spirits. Apparently, he believed that he could find the divine chalcedony. Ning Cheng put away the divine chalcedony and didn't bother with Qi Shizingsing. He sat down and started to comprehend the array foundations of the stone forest around him. Previously, Ning Cheng had blasted these stone peaks, causing Qi Shizingsing to fall unconscious. Currently, Qi Shizingsing bombarded the stone peaks while Ning Cheng went into seclusion to comprehend the array foundation. Qi Shizingsing's luck was much worse than Ning Cheng's. He didn't know how many stone peaks he had smashed, but he only found a piece of divine chalcedony on the 10th day. Even so, his joyful voice was extremely exaggerated. Fortunately, Qi Shizingsing's luck improved. On the 16th day, he found a second piece of divine chalcedony. After a month, he had already found 5 pieces of divine chalcedony. Seeing Ning Cheng still meditating with his eyes closed, Qi Shizingsing decided to leave a few pieces for Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng stood up at this time. He had obtained 2 pieces of divine chalcedony, while Qi Shizingsing had obtained 5. The locations of these 7 pieces of divine chalcedony gave him a vague impression. Perhaps he couldn't arrange such a huge illusory array with his current ability. But he could find the locations of the array foundations with divine chalcedony through his own calculations over the past month. "Brother Qi, don't waste your time. There's no divine chalcedony in these stone peaks." Just when Qi Shizingsing was about to smash another stone peak a few hundred feet wide, Ning Cheng stopped him. Qi Shizingsing looked at Ning Cheng in confusion. "I haven't broken these stone peaks yet. How do you know it's not here?" He didn't believe that Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness could penetrate these stone peaks. These stone peaks' ability to isolate spiritual consciousness was far stronger than their cultivation. Ning Cheng showed a smile. "I found a pattern." After saying that, Ning Cheng brought out his long spear, and in a place a few dozen feet away from Qi Shisan's star, his spear struck a stone peak only a few dozen feet high. The stone peak collapsed, and a pitch-black piece of divine chalcedony appeared in front of the two. Qi Shizingsing looked at the pitch-black piece of divine chalcedony sluggishly. After a while, he looked at Ning Cheng and exclaimed, "Brother Ning, you've struck it rich. You must remember me." Ning Cheng had indeed struck it rich. After finding the pattern of divine chalcedony's locations, he and Qi Shizingsing dug out more than 100 pieces of divine chalcedony in just a dozen days. Even if they made a mistake, it wouldn't be too much of a mistake. "Huh, there's another skeleton here." Ning Cheng stopped. He saw a skeleton with some skin still attached to it. Since he found the pattern of divine chalcedony's appearance, he hadn't seen a skeleton, let alone such a complete one. Qi Shizingsing also came over and carefully looked at the skeleton on the ground. He suddenly sighed and said, "I know who this person is." Chapter 888. Without waiting for Ning Cheng to ask, Qi Shixingsing said, he's Pil Sage Min Kong. You mean Pil Sage Min Kong, the one who used the human-faced poison centipede to guard the divine spiritual herb garden? Ning Cheng asked in surprise. Qi Shixingsing nodded, yes, it's him. He's the premier Pil Sage of the Grand Essence realm, and the robe he wears is the premier Pil Sage's robe. Moreover, he never wears rings and only uses bracelets. I didn't expect Pil Sage Min Kong to fall in this place. From the looks of it, he came here for the divine chalcedony. Ning Cheng found that the skeleton only had a bracelet on his wrist and no rings on his fingers. Pil Sage Min Kong's bracelet must have a lot of good things. Since Brother Ning found it, you can put it away. His Pil Sage's robe is also amazing. It's tens of thousands of times better than my robe. It's priceless. Brother Ning, you can also put it away. Qi Shixingsing came from the profound moon spirit gate. Although he also wanted Pil Sage Min Kong's bracelet, he was much more rational than the average cultivator. Ning Cheng put away Pil Sage Min Kong's bracelet but didn't touch his robe. Instead, he dug a grave, refined a jade coffin, and put Pil Sage Min Kong into the jade coffin before sending it to the grave. After doing all this, Ning Cheng refined a tombstone with the words Grand Essence Realm's premier Pil Sage Min Kong's tomb, erected by the benefactor Ning Cheng. He then placed it in front of the tomb and bowed 3 times. Seeing Qi Shixingsing's confusion, Ning Cheng sighed and said, although I was chased by that human-faced poison centipede and almost died, I obtained a lot of divine grasses from his spiritual medicine garden. However, I obtained a large number of divine grasses in his spiritual medicine garden. Because I am also an alchemist, I kept his bracelet. No matter how you look at it, Pil Sage Min Kong has done me a favor. It's only right for me to clean up his corpse and pay my respects to him. Qi Shixingsing remembered that his corporeal body came from Pil Sage Min Kong's spiritual medicine garden and immediately felt ashamed. He also stood in front of Pil Sage Min Kong's tomb and worshipped it a few times. Ning Cheng pointed to a stone peak beside the tomb and said, this stone peak should have divine chalcedony. But since this is Pil Sage Min Kong's tombstone, let's go to the next place. Okay. Qi Shixingsing agreed to Ning Cheng's words without hesitation. The two of them had just taken 3 steps according to their previous route when their eyes suddenly lit up. The misty stone forest had disappeared without a trace. What appeared in front of the two was a boundless wilderness. There were even God's spiritual energy fluctuations in the distance. We came out. Qi Shixingsing understood. His first thought wasn't to leave but to turn around. There were so many spiritual consciousness essences in the lost stone forest. Moreover, if he stayed together with Ning Cheng, then the illusory array formation would not affect him at all. Only a fool would be willing to come out so early. I can't get in. Ning Cheng frowned as he looked at the endless wasteland behind him. Where was the lost stone forest behind them? Where was Shifeng? Qi Shixingsing also reacted and exclaimed, what a powerful illusory array. Brother Ning, if it weren't for you, I'm afraid I wouldn't have come out of it in another 60,000 years. Sigh, it's a pity for Pil Sage Min Kong. He was only 3 steps away from coming out, but he actually died inside. Sometimes, there are only 3 steps between life and death. Ning Cheng remained silent. If he didn't have the 7 Bridges spirit technique, he would have most likely died in the lost stone forest. Even if the mysterious yellow origin aura could keep him awake for a while, his sea of consciousness would eventually dim under the effects of the illusory array and the Yin demons. In other words, sooner or later, he would fall in the lost stone forest like Qi Shixingsing and turn into a skeleton like Pil Sage Min Kong. Let's go. Let's divide the divine chalcedony and the things in Pil Sage Min Kong's bracelet. Ning Cheng patted Qi Shixingsing, who was still sighing. Brother Ning, you saved my life. Since you're also an alchemy master, I don't want that bracelet anymore. Just give me 10 divine chalcedony. I don't need more. Qi Shixingsing said with a straight face. He knew very well that Ning Cheng had saved his life, and it was also because of Ning Cheng that he could walk out of the lost stone forest. Moreover, it was all thanks to Ning Cheng that they could find so many divine chalcedonies. Ning Cheng smiled. He had been with Qi Shixingsing for a month or two and had long since understood Qi Shixingsing's character. Qi Shixingsing wasn't a cunning person. If you treated him with sincerity, he would treat you with sincerity. As for divine chalcedony being useless, it was just a comforting statement. The more, the better. How could it be useless? Ning Cheng took out 30 divine chalcedony and handed it to Qi Shixingsing. Brother Qi, I'm going to refine the spirit essence pill, so I'll take some more. Hearing that Ning Cheng wanted to refine the spirit essence pill, Qi Shixingsing's eyes lit up. But he still took out 5 divine chalcedony. Brother Ning, I only need 10. You can keep the other 5. If you manage to refine the spirit essence pill, remember to give me 5 portions. If you fail, forget it. Hearing Qi Shixingsing's words, Ning Cheng didn't refuse. He believed that he could successfully refine the spirit essence pill. Therefore, he took back the rest of the divine chalcedony and said, "Okay, I'll give them to you once I succeed. You've been in the Grand Essence Mystic Realm for more than half a year, right? Let's go back and look for divine grasses along the way. By the time we reach the exit, it should be about time." Qi Shixingsing was in a good mood. He guessed that Ning Cheng must have entered the Grand Essence Mystic Realm to look for divine grasses. Because Ning Cheng himself said that he was an alchemy master. Ning Cheng hesitated for a moment before saying, "Brother Qi, I might need your help. See if you can help. If not, I'll think of another way." When Qi Shixingsing heard Ning Cheng's words, his tone immediately turned a little unpleasant. "Ning Cheng, I won't call you Brother Ning anymore. The two of us have gone through life and death together in the Grand Essence Lost Stone Forest. You're just being wary of me and not being straightforward enough." Ning Cheng smiled, "Okay, then I won't stand on ceremony. I'm also too lazy to call you Brother Qi. But Shixingsing sounds good." Qi Shixingsing felt even better when he heard Ning Cheng's words. "Hurry up and say it. If you want me to help you fight, it would be for the best. Even after tens of thousands of years, I haven't had a good fight. Hee, I can't wait." While talking, Qi Shixingsing kept rubbing his hands. Coupled with his weak body, it looked a little funny. "It's not a fight. I offended someone. I guess that person will be waiting for me outside when the Grand Essence Mystic Realm closes." Ning Cheng shook his head and said. Qi Shixingsing laughed, "Then it's even simpler. At that time, Shixingsing will suddenly appear. Let's see who dares to talk to my brother. If anyone dares to talk, I'll slap him to death." He had the confidence to say this. Even if the other party was a disciple of one of the top 10 sects, he would still dare to do so. "I'm afraid not. That person is called Man Huishan. I heard that he's a dragon emperor," Ning Cheng said with some distress. Qi Shixingsing looked at Ning Cheng with his mouth wide open. After a while, he stuttered, "You said you offended Man Huishan. How could you have anything to do with him? He's a Tao Essence Holy Emperor. Slap Man Huishan to death? Even his father wouldn't dare say such a thing. Man Huishan would kill Qi Shixingsing with a slap." Ning Cheng rubbed his hair helplessly and sighed, "Oh, if I could, I wouldn't want to provoke such a person. It's an undeserved disaster for me to provoke this fellow. If it weren't for Manjurin wanting to destroy the mysterious Yellow Starland, how could he have become enemies with Man Huishan?" Qi Shixingsing calmed down and comforted him, "Don't worry. I'll ask my father to go to the Grand Essence Sea and ask for a favor. Nothing will happen. That probably won't work. I killed Man Huishan's son, Manjurin. I'm afraid it would be difficult to ask for a favor. You." Qi Shixingsing looked at Ning Cheng in anger. He had seen bold people before, but he had never seen someone as bold as Ning Cheng. "You even dared to kill Man Huishan's son? What kind of guts did you eat?" After a few minutes, Qi Shixingsing finally spoke up, "Tell me about the process. Let's find a way together." Ning Cheng felt that Qi Shixingsing really wanted to help him. Therefore, he told him about the hatred between him and Manjuran. He only concealed the 5-colored star splitter arrow. In fact, if Qi Shixingsing showed any signs of not wanting to help, Ning Cheng would have found another way. After listening to Ning Cheng's words, Qi Shixingsing put aside Man Huishan's strength. This kid dared to scheme against you in the mystic realm. He deserved to die. Besides, Man Huishan doesn't know that you killed him. So you don't have to worry. I'm sure I can think of a way. If Brother Ning stays in my miniature world. Ning Cheng interrupted Qi Shixingsing's words, it's useless. Not to mention a miniature world, even a true spirit world can't avoid Man Huishan's detection. Ning Cheng also stopped talking. If there was someone in the true spirit world, there was indeed no way to avoid the detection of a Tao essence powerhouse. But what if the 3,000 weak water could cover up the true spirit world? Thinking of this, Ning Cheng spoke up without hesitation, Shixingsing, I have a true spirit world and a drop of 3,000 weak water. When we get out, I will enter the true spirit world. Then, I will use the 3,000 weak water to cover up the aura of the true spirit world. You can then take this true spirit world out. Wonderful. Qi Shixingsing clapped his hands and said with joy, then it's settled. Let's go look for divine grasses. When we get out, I'll take you with me. Okay, but unfortunately, I won't be able to participate in the Grand Essence Great Meet. Ning Cheng hesitated a little before agreeing to Qi Shixingsing's words. Comparing not being able to participate in the Great Meet with his life, Ning Cheng naturally understood which was more important. For others, entering the true spirit world would mean putting their lives in the hands of others. But Ning Cheng had a trump card. He believed that he wouldn't misjudge someone. Even if he misjudged someone, he could still blow up the true spirit world. With the mysterious yellow bead, he wouldn't have any problems even if he blew up the true spirit world. The only drawback was that it would expose the mysterious yellow bead. Do you want to go to the extraterritorial spirit spring to transform your spirit essence? Qi Shixingsing understood Ning Cheng's intentions as soon as he heard Ning Cheng's words. Ning Cheng nodded and said, yes. In fact, I didn't come to the Grand Essence Mystic Realm for divine grasses. Instead, I wanted to go to the extraterritorial spirit spring to transform my spirit essence.